Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, everyone watching this evening, and welcome back to round number 4, officially at the halfway point of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy. In Catalonia, it was Kev Critchley. In Mazzano, it was Luca Burke. And by the skin of his teeth, last week at Spa, it was Ross McGregor taking the win and finishing off our third round. And as I mentioned, now we are at the halfway point and here at the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit, the first of the tracks this season, the first of 2 that we are revisiting from season number 1. And it's safe to say that the 60-minute race here last season was certainly one to remember. Luca Burke taking the win, but harried from start to finish by none other than former Formula One world champion Jenson Button. So I'm sure we're going to have some fantastic action this evening. My name is David Wressell. I'm going to be one of your co-commentators this evening, and I'm pleased, as always, to be joined by my partner in crime, Tim Fullbrook. Tim, we're halfway through, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, and I'm sure we'll continue to mention over the course of this evening, and we've had some fantastic results so far. We'll get to the championship standings in a minute, but before we do that, who's been your driver of the series so far this season?
Well, good evening, David, and good evening, everyone watching on. It's crazy to think we're halfway through. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? We've had some fantastic racing so far. It's been neck and neck since the start, hasn't it? It's been so close. But I think that my driver of the season so far has to be Ross McGregor. I think he's really impressed me. Obviously, he's our championship leader off the back of that spectacular win at Spa, but I don't know what it is about Ross. He's somewhat understated. You know, he's not that flamboyant, eccentric driver that so often can come about, you know, when you're leading the championship or you're towards the sharp end. You know, he's not one of those headline grabbers. Okay, yeah, he was a bit last time at Spa, but the cameras weren't really on him for the majority of the race. Mr. Consistent, I think, is how I describe him. 2 P4s in the first 2 rounds and victory last time out of Spa. I think he's a bit of a dark horse. You know, I can't quite describe what it is, but he seems to go under the radar. He just gets those results without making a big deal of it. And I think he's a challenger all the way to the end of the final race.
Absolutely, yeah. Put on the virtual helmet, get in the virtual car and just get going. Just gets his foot down, closes his mind off to everything around him and just puts in performance after performance. And with that in mind, as you mentioned, Tim, of course, Ross McGregor, as we just heard there, top of the standings coming into the 4th round here at Kyalami. Luca Burke only 10 points behind, despite the fact he had a disconnection in the first round at Catalonia. So impressive to see the form he's been. A first and second place for him so far in the series of the races he's been in. Jack McIntyre for Zancho Simsport sits behind them on 44 points, and Jack Noller, one of the MSL Motorsport Consultancy drivers, being Mr. Consistent and following through every race in the points so far, sitting 4th on 41. Will Dendy of Zancho Simsport also sat in the top 5. He's on 36 points, and Kev Critchley only 2 points behind. He was race winner, of course, in Catalonia in round 1, and then got an unfortunate coming together with Jack McIntyre into turn 1 at Mazzano, which unfortunately hashed his chances of a good point scoring finish, and unfortunately wasn't able to attend last week at Spa. Ben Hitz had a fantastic run last week, finishing 5th at Spa-Francorchamps, and he sits in the standings on 29 points. Regan Mitchell, Kieran Vidago and Bastian Zenefels rounding out the top 10. And Tim, we've seen how consistency pays off in these championships, and like you said before, Ross McGregor certainly doing a good job of that, but we've got a handful of people, and I'm keeping a close eye on Jack Noller, because this was his debut here at Kyalami last season, and I believe he did, there's no believing about it, he did a fantastic job indeed. So it's going to be very interesting, with a much stronger grid than we had in season number 1, to see just how that MSL Motorsport Consultancy driver fares this evening.
We got his best qualifying of the season in season 1 on his debut. You know, he made that impact on his first race, a P6 here at Kyalami. We've seen him better that in the opening round at Catalonia. He bagged himself a spot on the 2nd row. I think this is a circuit he's more familiar with. This is one he's more at ease with the Cayman and with the track. I think he's definitely one to watch, because I would expect him to be up towards that top 10, up towards the top 5 potentially. And with the consistency that we know Noller can deliver, with that just solid result-getting attitude that he seems to deliver race on race, he could be in with an outside shot of a podium, or definitely in the top 10 scoring points. I just want to add as well, David, up to this halfway point, we've had 24 drivers score points, which is far more than we had last season. I think it's really important to remember that we score points all the way down to 15th. So there are a lot of drivers that are getting consistent results and getting some points in towards the lower end of that top 15, in the race, and they're starting to put together a really solid championship run in their respective positions. So midway point of the season tonight, they're going to be looking, okay, look, I've got to just get this result here midway point and mark the run in towards the championship finale. I think a lot of people are going to be driving differently this evening.
Absolutely. And speaking of Jack Noller, we do actually have a hot lap from the man himself of this Kyalami GP circuit, so we'll cross to that now before we go into any other business before we finish off. And you can see him going down the start finish straight now into what is effectively known as turn 1, Tim. Not necessarily a turn, but officially known as the kink, and down into Crowthorne. Definitely an overtaking opportunity, and one where we're going to have to keep an eye out for in the first couple of laps, just to make sure that everyone gets through there cleanly, aren't we?
It's such a long run down the hill to Crowthorne, so a plenty of opportunity to slipstream, and then up through this technical switch back through the Just K sweep and into barbecue. It sometimes takes until this corner, turn 4-5 really, for the battle to be decided, and even it carries on all the way through up to Sunset.
Absolutely, yeah. Sunset being the fast right-hander, you're going to take that in 4th gear, get on the power as early as you dare. You can be liable for track limit extension as you go out, but Jack looks like he's holding on to that nicely there. You'd hope he does, considering it's a hot lap into Clubhouse. Heavy on the brakes down into 2nd gear. You can take a fair bit of curb, as you can see he's done there, and big extension on the left and on the right-hand side as well. And then into the S's. Very difficult left-right here. You've got, look, just going over the brow of the hill, and you can see, again, it's one of those where you want to try and get on the power as early as you dare, Tim, because at the top of the hill up into Leacock, definitely another overtaking opportunity if the run's right.
You need that run out of the S's, because you can either set yourself up for a move into the slowest corner on the track or find yourself being attacked from behind. You've got to nail the S's, and they're so tricky. With that change in elevation, you can get some dreadful understeer and lose plenty of time.
Absolutely. Coming down through Mineshaft, one of the fastest corners on the circuit, into another heavy braking zone, into the Crocodiles. Again, definitely a chance for overtaking manoeuvres come race time in about half an hour's time. And then into the very awkward penultimate corner, turn 15, known as Cheetah. Catches a little bit of that sausage curve on the inside. You catch too much, you're going to be in the wall, and then slowing it right down into Ingwe. And again, just making sure you get the best possible run, using as much of the outside of track as you can. You can see it's very liberal with the track limits on the outside there. It's crossed the line. It's going to be one of those where we're looking probably, Tim, about a sub 150, maybe a 149 in qualifying. And we've seen it before. Like you say, qualifying is always close in these Esport Designs Cayman Supercup rounds. And I would expect to think that tonight is going to be no different.
Exactly. I mean, the closest qualifying margin we had was last season. We had a gap of less than 200ths of a second separating the top two. It's absolutely ludicrous how close this grid is. And a matter of tenths can separate, you being on the 2nd row, maybe the 3rd row, and finding yourself all the way down in 15th or close to the extremities of the top 20. It's outrageous how close these drivers are. But at Kyalami, it's a very technical track. It's not one where you can make a mistake and really kind of carry the speed or carry on with your lap as if everything's okay. Like you said, through the corners like Cheetahs, and particularly into looking at the S's, make a mistake, take a bit too much curb, take a bit too much speed, maybe drag the brake a little bit too long and the car starts rotating a bit too much. You're going to find yourself having an issue and losing time over a lap that's really going to cost you in qualifying. It's a lap you've got to get nailed, and every corner has to be spot on.
Absolutely, and with the detriment of the drivers this evening, because it's that 60-minute race, so as I mentioned many times before, we're alternating between a 90-minute feature and a 60-minute sprint race. 60 minutes from flag to flag tonight here at Kyalami, and as a result, only 3 sets of tyres available to the drivers across the 30-minute practice, which is just coming to an end, the 20-minute qualifying session, which will be getting underway in a few moments' time, and the 60-minute race. Of course, it's 4 sets when we come to the feature races at the alternate weeks. Speaking of the alternate weeks and ones that are coming up to finish off the season, we head to Paul Ricard in a week's time for the 90-minute race for the second to last feature race of the season. We then head to Imola the week after that for a final 60-minute sprint dash, and then we'll finish off with Silverstone to top things off for round number 7 for a 90-minute feature race in 3 weeks' time. Qualifying is underway, so we're going to head down to the track, Tim, and we'll see how these guys are going to get on. Like I say, nice and dark outside. It's 4 a.m. local time at Kyalami at the moment. Nice and cool track, so getting your tyres up to temperature on this first lap as they start to explore around this GP circuit is going to be very important indeed, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I hope they've had their shots of espresso to wake them up at 4 a.m. in the morning. That's a horrible time to have qualifying, isn't it? So, yeah, like we say, another challenge. Look, we've had these curveballs with conditions. We had warmer track temperatures at Misano, and then they cooled as the sun set. And then last time at Spa, again, we had these warmer conditions. Transitioning into a cooler race finish. So the drivers do need to be aware of that. They've got to be on top of the changing conditions. Okay, it's not rainy or going from wet to dry, etc. But it's still enough. A change of a few degrees can really affect the balance of the car, can affect the grip that the track is giving you. So they need to be aware of that, and they'll need to be across any of those changes. So it's a lot more than just the two pedals and the steering wheel in front of you, and obviously the 20 odd cars that you're also fighting with. But I'm interested to see how they deal with this, because it is slightly cooler, like we say, and I think then the race will be hotter when we skip forward to the race session. So two very different temperature sets this evening.
Absolutely, as we see Steve Hinden rounding into Ingwe for the first time. He's going to be the first one to set a flying lap, so we'll see how Steve does get on. He's been very honest with himself. I think he's been a little bit disappointed with the way the races have gone over the last couple of rounds. He's been hoping to try and avoid some of the concertina effects, and hopefully we'll get a cleaner entry into the first couple of corners at Kyalami this evening. But he is a big fan of this track. I know he spends a lot of time around here. He's got a handful of handy little setups, which he's been kind enough to share with me and some of the people over the past. So he's going to be confident going into this one. Well, I race for him as well, Tim, you'll have to remember. So I do get the luxury of getting setups for free, fortunately, which is a damn good thing, because I'm terrible at doing them myself. But yeah, I know how comfortable he is around here, so he's definitely going to be hoping for a finish well inside the points, I'm sure.
Well, fingers crossed he can get qualifying right, because I think that's a problem for Steve, is that he's been kind of in top 15, outside the top 15, in qualifying, and that's really that drama zone. And as you can see on screen at the moment, this is Pitwall Live. This is what David and myself are looking at in terms of timing screens. If you head over to pitwall.live, you can find the Simsport, the eSport Designs server, and you can watch the timing screens and keep across the laps being set in qualifying and of course the race. But yeah, I think for Steve it's crucial to get qualifying right, get out of that mid-pack where you can really have a problem, and get ahead of the drama, or ahead of any possible drama going down into Crowthorne for the first time. Steve can do that. I think that'll set him up for a very strong race.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I say, it all starts with qualifying. One correction I'll make to you there, Tim, it would be the Simsport Solutions server rather than the eSport Designs ones for Pitwall Live, just to make sure that we don't get loads of people going, where on earth is the eSport Design Solution server in the chat itself? But I'm sure people will be able to find it by now. If you've been with us for the last 3 rounds, you'll be very familiar with how this evening is due to work. Like I say, 20 minutes worth of qualifying. Steve Hinden, I would say, is going to be the first one to cross the line. He's going to set the benchmark. He's got the 2 BD Motorsport cars behind him, Chris Crossman and Kev Critchley. Chris goes a second and a bit quicker, and then Kev Critchley a 10th quicker than his teammate. Like I say, it's good to see Kev back. He's going to be hoping for some good points, Tim. And like we said before, obviously missed out on the race at Spa last week. I know we'd have been looking forward to it, because Spa is one of those classic tracks that I think, no matter whether you've driven it in the sim before or not, it's always one you want to get to. And he's still got an outside chance of the Championship lead. We know he's quick. He obviously pushed Luca Burke in the first. In fact, he pushed Luca Burke in the in both rounds at Misano and Catalunya. Of course, both of them having some issues for the races themselves. So it's going to be I'm hoping that we're actually going to see them both out on track and see if we can get both of them fighting for what will eventually be some decent points towards the end of this evening.
Yeah, I think it's crucial for Critchley, this race. I think it's really important for him to come back and reinstate his position, because we were thinking that he was the man to beat in terms of the championship. I mean, race 1, the feature race at Barcelona, he risked it with strategy in terms of taking tyres, but he closed the gap to McIntyre, got past, won the race. Second time out at Misano, got caught up in the dramas at Turn 1, obviously that incident with McIntyre, but he fought back to a solid points finish in 9th. We were really looking at him to be the driver to cause headaches at the top of the field. Unfortunately, yes, like we say, unable to race last time at Spa. I think coming back tonight, if he can make an impact, we could certainly see the championship picture change.
Absolutely. Well, he's certainly made an impact so far. He's currently sitting pretty at the top of the timing charts, although Luca Burke coming through Ingwe is going to have something to say about that, I'm sure. Jenson Button 0.03 of a second off, so just proving the point to show that how competitive these guys are. Luca Burke going in 150.5, so half a second off the relative pace at the moment, but I'm sure he'll just be winding things up as we see current championship leader Ross McGregor in the number 33 Zancho Simsport Cayman coming into Ingwe as well. So he's got a couple of people in front of him. That's one of either Al Buncombe or Jenson Button ahead of him on track. I think that's Button there just crossing the line as well. He manages to improve, goes a 1:49.8, and Ross McGregor a little bit off the pace at the moment, still in the top 10, Tim, but 9/10 off. What a storming lap from Button that was. Him from first, Chris Crossman in second now. Kev Critchley's just dropped down 2 positions in the space of about 30 seconds.
It's incredible how things can change, isn't it? That was a great lap from Button, but I get the feeling there's more in the tank. I feel like some of these other drivers are maybe just getting used to what they've got out there on track. Obviously, I'm looking at someone like the driver on screen at the moment, Jack McIntyre. He's got to be inside that top 5, so be excited to see where he ends up on the grid as he comes into the Crocodiles now. It's all looking fairly clean and uneventful, which is exactly what you need for a lap around Kyalami, because with the nature of some of the curbs and the corners, you can lose so much time just being a bit too flamboyant and excessive with track limits. And as he comes through the final corner at Ingwe, again looking so stable, looking clean, and hopefully we'll see him set a time when he crosses the line, or he's potentially gearing up for one now. So a good Saita run. That was a 51.3, so yeah, a Saita lap there from McIntyre. Let's see where he goes on the grid in this next hot lap.
Absolutely, yeah. To quote the infamous Jeremy Clarkson, sometimes it's better to look slow because that actually is faster in the long run. Which wonder if that's actually true or not. He's not necessarily the fastest man in the world, but Luca Burke coming through Ingwe, he's a fast man indeed. He's currently 7/10 up, so he's going to be putting himself up and around the pole position time of Jenson Button at the moment as he crosses the line. Gives just 0.02 of a second, just shy of that. Got Aaron Martin Pilkington, I believe that is, just sat behind in the 626 Simsport Racing Rouge car. And yeah, Chris Crossman, though, coming across a 1:49.6, Tim, a 10th quicker. These BD Racing chaps are certainly looking familiar with this Kyalami circuit, and they are putting the stall out early doors in qualifying at the moment, aren't they?
And I think that's crucial as well for Critchley's eventual fight back into the championship, and also for Crossman's championship as well. You know, if they can both get up there and get in amongst the Zancho cars, if you like, and the quick kind of Simsport Solution cars, cause a headache, cost them some points, and they can fight back into this. A great performance from Crossman last time out as well. He looked really strong at Spa. But isn't it great to see Button and Burke going back at it again? That was the story of last season, was Button trying to close that gap to Burke. And it was here at Kyalami where it looked like the tide was turning in Button's favour.
Absolutely, Tim, and like you say, it was an absolute barnstormer at Kyalami last season with 2 of them fighting for it, and I would like to think we're going to have a fair few more this time round as well. The top 13 separated by just over a second. Current championship leader Ross McGregor sitting in 13th place at the moment. Al Buncombe in the 23 Rocket Simsport car, been in the wars in the last couple of rounds, but gets himself up into 4th on the timing charts at the moment, 2.5 back off of Chris Crossman for BD Racing at the moment. We run alongside Ross McGregor as he comes up the top of the hill to Lee Cop. Half a second in hand at the moment, and he'll be looking for some serious points, Tim. And of course, he'll be looking potentially for a fastest lap in the race, because you may recall from last week he was on charge to get a set of grid finder gloves for the fastest lap. Of course, one pair goes to each driver who gets the fastest lap across all 7 rounds. And Jack McIntyre managed to snatch that off him on the final lap, but Kev Critchley 5/10 up at the moment. That's going to put him even further up at the top of the timing chart, or put him back into the top of the timing charts. He's got Pierre-Olivier Cloutier at the top, but there you go, Tim, a 1:49.5. We said we'd be dipping into the 49s. I wouldn't be too surprised if we carry on like this. We'll be up into the 1:48s if we're not too careful.
Yeah, McGregor's set to improve as well. He jumps up to 7th place. So look, half of a second. And David Belanger improving in the background as well in the EGT Motorsports car. He's up into 6th place. So really mixing things inside those top 10 places. Look how close it is as well, David. A second from pole all the way down to 14th. It's super close at the moment. Exactly what we love to see. But I'm looking to see now, with 10 minutes to go, obviously with the reduced number of tyre sets, as you mentioned earlier, who's going to risk it with potentially taking another set just to better their position on the grid? Maybe they've sacrificed some time in the practice session to save a set as well. I think if we see a number of drivers heading to pit lanes, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Buncombe, Mitchell, Noller, Sandberg are in pit lane at the moment. I feel like we're going to see, a second run at this pole position time. Also, further down the order, 22nd at the moment, Tom Ryer, pole position last time out of Spa on his debut appearance, yet to get a clean lap in. So hopefully we can see that number 2 MSL Motorsports car up towards the sharp end.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Interestingly, he's just in detector times on Pit Wall Live at the moment. If you look at his middle sector, pretty rapid in consideration, but he obviously lost a bit of time in the final one. I would imagine that lap was probably one he backed out on, like you say, and as you can see, one of the EGT Motorsport drivers going through Lee Kopp and back down the hill. Thomas Lavoie going down towards Mineshaft, currently sitting in 15th position, just over a second off. And like I say, that just shows you the competitive nature of this field, that you've got such a small gap across a fairly long lap in consideration, 4.5 Ks this track itself, as McGregor comes through Ingwe on a fast lap. He's a couple of tenths up at the moment. See what he does as he goes across the line, puts himself third, just ahead of Jenson Button, but Button's out on track as well, the only man in the top 10 not setting a lap of time at the moment, Tim. Well, I say that, it's just been proved wrong, is Al Buncombe and David Belanger. And we're looking like we're set up. Well, I mean, we always do get a fantastic qualifying session here as Tom Ryer elects to pop into the YouTube chat. I think you should probably be out on track, good man, putting some lap times in rather than electing to interact with the community, but we love to see it nonetheless. And one man in particular, Tom's got a bit of work to do, isn't he?
I think so. And here's another driver on the screen that I would expect to see a little bit further up the order. Kieran Vidago, he seems to be, pulling some better performances this season, running inside the points as well. He's up on his time, so 3/10. That will see him improve. I doubt that'll be enough to see him move from 17th place. He's going to have to find some more time in the final sector. And looking at the timings on there on the left-hand side, if you look at the gap between John Clements in 13th and Bastian Zenefels in 14th, there's a gap of about 4/10 there. So clearly we've got a group that are all, in the low kind of 50s region, and then there's a gap up to the drivers who really are towards the 51. So I think there's a little bit of a pace split as we see Vidago getting very wide on the exit of the final corner. That's got to be his lap time invalidated. He'll have to go again. So look, we're seeing a little bit of split in pace, but still, Aaron Martin Pilkington hasn't set a time. Jack McIntyre hasn't set a time. Tom Ryer, he's nowhere near where we'd expect him. So I think there's a lot to change in the remaining 7 minutes of this qualifying session.
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, I'm just actually hearing fresh from the horse's mouth, as it were. I hate to call him a horse, but I've just actually had a message through from Tom Ryer. He's not actually partaking in the qualifying. He doesn't think he's got a chance of winning the championship, which I think is a very confident shout. I think he's probably got a better chance than most people do, considering the pace he ran at Spa last week. But he does want a pair of those grid finder gloves. So I think we're going to see him try and put in some laps indeed. But just going back to our Martin Pilkington, we were talking before the broadcast, weren't we? We wonder if he's just, to an extent, to coin the phrase, sandbagging in qualifying, because he's currently sitting at the top of that fast forward championship for the most positions gained over the course of the season. Now he's got on 25 at the moment, 4 ahead of his nearest challenger. And of course, the winner of that, Tim, as you mentioned before, gets a couple of tickets for the British Grand Prix. So I'm sure Aaron, I don't think he's doing that. Of course, I'm sure he's trying to extract every possible tenth of a second out of that Simsport racing car. But he's been fortunate at the moment where, yes, he's been caught up in some incidents, but it's given him a chance to get himself up towards that potential prize at the end of the season. But and a couple of tenths up as the moment he comes through Ingrid, see what these times can be as across the line.
Wow, goes to look at that. So close between the two of them. 15 hundredths of a second. That's outrageous between Button and at the top of the standings still. Well, goes top, sorry, Critchley second. This is heating up right into the final 5.5 minutes, and I think we're going to see this battle just continue through the race, because it doesn't look like anyone's got a severe advantage. Like I say, there is that slight split in times now down towards 13th and 14th, so I reckon we could see the top 10 just pull away slightly. But again, look at the margins. It's a matter of tenths all the way down the field. Be interested to see if anyone can get a last gasp attempt in and climb up the order. But Ross McGregor on the screen at the moment, again, look, he's just getting that performance in. He's P4 on the grid at the moment, hasn't set, the most outrageous lap times and beating everyone and wiping it in everyone's faces. He's just getting the laps done. He's securing himself a good place on the grid, and wouldn't be surprised to see him in the top 5 come the checkered flag in a little over an hour's time.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Had a fantastic run out of Spa last week, of course, race winner there, just ahead of Luca Burke, and it was a fight that went right down to the final corner. If you've not seen it, you need to go back and watch the stream from last week, and I probably should do it after this race. Let's watch this one live, and you come back to it. Jack Noller 3/10 up at the moment, but just going back to Ross, like I say, was one of those who didn't elect to change tyres at Spa last week, and it seemed like the more suitable strategy for everyone who did it, because those who did change tyres, Luca Burke, Jack McIntyre, of course, got very close at the end, but no cigar. So Ross has really been captain consistency so far, a fourth place and a win last week. He's going to be looking for more of that, but currently sitting in 5th position, it's Button, followed by Critchley, followed by Luca Burke, followed by Chris Crossman, and then comes Ross McGregor as Jack Noller comes into Ingwe on his push lap. Got a couple of tenths in hand, so he's going to go up a couple of positions, potentially just in between Buncombe and Belanger. I'm hoping that's going to be the case. Let's lose a bit of time for Ingwe there, Tim, and only goes up into the top 10, just behind Esport Designs driver Florian Bauer.
Hoping for a clean race for Florian, aren't we? Because a couple of mistakes, pit stops and drive-throughs, etc., have seen him really not where he should be. But Crossman's improving. He crosses the line to go second. So it's the two BD racing cars. They're separated by 0.003 of a second. But both of them are behind Jenson Button to the tune again of 0.006. It's outrageously close on the top 3 positions. And Luca Burke is improving. 2 tenths up, so he could go pole and knock Button from top spot, but join his teammate on the front row. So let's see how the rest of this lap pans out for Burke. And David, just to add to your point about the last race being such a spellbinding finish, it was the closest winning margin we've had in the 7-8 races so far. So a gap of 0.2 of a second at the line. So definitely go back and watch this. But like you say, only after you've enjoyed the racing action tonight at Kyalami.
Absolutely, yeah. Somehow that doesn't surprise me, that stat, Tim. I know you love your stats, but that seems like one of the more unsurprising ones given the distance when they cross the line. Amazing nonetheless, like you say. And Luca Burke comes through Cheetah into Ingwe on one of his qualifying laps. He's going to be looking to get a good run out of the final corner, keeps it nice and wide to the outside of that apron, goes across the line any second now. He just crossed the line. He improves. In fact, no, he doesn't improve. Sorry, just looking at the last time, a 1:49.7 on that one. So he's lost that couple of tenths he had in hand. Chris Crossman now coming down through Mineshaft and down towards the Crocodiles. See whether he's going to improve. Fortunately for him, though, Tim, not a huge amount he needs to improve to get himself onto the top step of the grid for the race coming up in a couple of minutes. But all the 5 or 6 surrounding, barring John Clements, who's probably the only one in there at the moment, everyone else, it looks like they've probably got enough time to set another lap. So this pole position battle is nowhere near finished.
As Crossman runs out the final corner, though, we just heard that he's up on his time. So let's see where he goes as he crosses the line. Does he improve? Yes! Pole position again changes hands. Crossman takes pole. It's a BD Racing 1-2 at the moment, but Critchley is out on track, and I'm sure he'll be wanting to respond immediately. But look at that. BD Racing 1-2, then it's Rocket Esports 3-4. So it's very close at the top of the standings. And looking at who's in pit lane at the moment, Clement, Sandberg, Cloutier, Lavoie, they're not going to have time to improve. Same can be said for Passpont, Brockies and Raya, who's down the order. So a number of drivers have, that's it. They've accepted their fate and their position on the grid. I suppose the only driver really who I'm looking at to suffer from that could be Clements in P6. He could drop down if Buncombe, Belanger and Florian Bauer can find a bit more time in this final few minutes.
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, I wonder if John Clements is going to be ruining the option to come back into the pits early. It's still a fast track by any means, so the state of the track not necessarily as it would normally be, considering where we've been in qualifying sessions in the past. However, Kev Critchley and Chris Crossman certainly not needing any optimal track status to help them at the moment, still sitting pretty at the top of the timing charts, and those sector times, just looking at them, they are so close. There's actually a couple of tenths that Crossman loses in the middle sector, but gains it in the final sector. That could just be set up. It could just be the way they drive. Jack McIntyre, I'm hearing, hasn't actually set a lap. I can see he's out on track, so hopefully he'll be able to get a lap time in. Aaron Martin Pilkington, also one of those who hasn't got a lap in. Again, maybe pertaining to the focus that he wants that fast forward prize at the end of the season. He's on 25 positions gained, as I mentioned earlier, but Kev Critchley comes out of the final corner, comes to cross the line. Is he going to improve? He is, and goes pole again. Pole position changes hands for what feels like the upteenth time as the timer hits 0. Jack McIntyre crosses the line. I don't know if he got across the line, Tim, to get a lap in. It doesn't look like it because check a flag against his name. So Jack McIntyre started from 25th on the grid and plumb last.
Going to be interesting to see where he can go then, because he's going to have to claw a major performance out of tonight's sprint race to climb up through it's not going to be easy to get past some of this field. Look how close the times are. Everyone's fairly evenly matched. McIntyre's got a job on his hands this evening, but I mean, what a qualifying session we've had. The gap at the top is absolutely minuscule. And again, like we say, that top 10, anyone in that top 10 could win tonight's race. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them all going at it hammer and tongs this evening, because it's going to be an absolute thriller.
Absolutely, yeah. Jenson Button, one of the only, or two of the top 5. Him and Ross McGregor still out on flying laps. With Critchley obviously on pole at the moment. Chris Crossman finished his final lap, couldn't improve, so he sits second on the front row to his BD Motorsports teammate. But Jenson Button coming down into the Crocodiles on a fast lap. He's going to be going quicker and quicker every lap at the moment. I'm sure we know how quick he is. Of course, he's got the credentials to prove it in the real world, and he's rather fast in the sim as well. Course, wasn't able to attend last week. Going very wide as he comes through Cheetah into Ingwe, and I wonder, Tim, there if he's just lost a bit of time, or maybe he'd invalidated the lap. Steve Hinden and Florian Bauer, Linus Cern, the eSport Design cars, both going through Ingwe as they come onto their final lap. It's going to be, see where Steve ends up. Steve in 19th, Florian in 10th at the moment. Steve gets himself up at 18th, and Florian Bauer gets himself up into 8th, and we can finally breathe, because goodness me, Tim, that was an absolutely spellbinding qualifying. Kev Critchley starting from Chris Crossman on the front row. That's exactly how BD Motorsports wanted to sign off that qualifying session, wasn't it?
Both drivers back then on the grid, and that's really important for both their respective championships, particularly Critchley. Back with a bang. I did say, David, halfway through that qualifying session, it's going to be all on Critchley to reinstate his position, and what a way to do it. Pole on his return to the series, halfway through the championship season as well. Look, it's down now to these other drivers to try and match that pace. Look, yeah, they're close, but they've got to match the pace that Critchley has across the race distance. We know how quick he is at being consistent and getting the laps in the book and cleanly. As we roll down the middle of the grid, I've just seen that Ross McGregor's got a penalty next to his name, so I'll check and see if we've got any confirmation from the stewards as to why, David. But before the green flag's even waved, we've got some drama kicking off before us.
Yeah, absolutely. As we hop onto the Simsport Solutions Segway, navigated by your broadcast director, Steve Proudley. It's a lovely view of all these amazing liveries that Steve Hinden has masterminded and put together. You can see the quality of every single one of them. And I'm just catching up on Ross McGregor as well, Tim. He's actually... his penalty been taken away, and interestingly, he actually jumped Jenson Button in the qualifying session. So just after Jenson aborted his lap and was sitting in third, Ross McGregor actually jumped from fifth to third. Luca Burke, though, sitting down in fifth. Now we know, let's be honest, fifth in this qualifying session is actually still a fantastic effort, because as we saw, only 0.2 or so separating the top 5 or 6. So still a fantastic showing from him. And John Clements, he'll be pleased to know that he's maintained his 6th position on the grid. Al Buncombe and Florian Bauer on the 4th row, and Ben Hitz and David Belanger rounding out the top 10. Jack Noller, a surprisingly rather slightly worse qualifying performance than we'd be used to from the young MSL Motorsports driver. Regan Mitchell alongside him, Oscar Stamberg and Bastien Zenefels in 13th and 14th. Pierre-Olivier Cloutier and Thomas Lavoie laying out a all EGT Motorsports row in 15th and 16th. Kieran Vidago alongside series organiser and manager Steve Hinden, Darrell Upton and Stefan Bunatix on 19th and 20th. Stane Paspont, Bradley Brockies, Tom Ryer, Aaron Martin Pilkington and Zancho Simsport driver and championship contender, you would say, Jack McIntyre, starting plumb last at the back of the grid. We've got 2.5 minutes until Kev Critchley will lead us round him. And we know how long the run is into the first corner. So I think we're going to see a fair few position changes, and hopefully there'll be clean ones as well.
Exactly what we want this evening. But look, my eyes are going to be on Luca Burke. It's a rarity to find him anywhere other than the front row in this championship. This evening, he's got 4 cars in front of him, and 4 very quick cars as well that he's going to need to beat if he wants to get back onto the podium. We know how consistent Burke is. We know how fast he is. Goes without doubt our reigning champion. 4 poles and 4 victories to his name so far. Untouchable in the previous sprint race at Mazzano. But tonight, he's got cars around him that are capable of beating him. So let's see how he behaves, because it's a different situation entirely. It's a different mental game when you go from leading, having the pace on everyone, just being able to cruise around. Not saying that Burke hasn't been harried in any of those situations in the opening few laps, but he's just been able to get that breathing space in the first 5 minutes, 3 laps or so, and then just get round to the checkered flag cleanly. Tonight, I'm going to be interested to see how he performs under the pressure of having some very, very quick cars around him.
Absolutely, Tim. And interestingly, I'm just seeing the 15-second penalty. I don't know whether it's been reassigned from Ross McGregor to David Belanger, but I do understand from recalling back through the steward reports from last week, David was caught up in a couple of incidents towards the start of the race at Spa, and I do recall him retiring. So I wonder if that's been a retrospectively applied penalty. That was a very big word for this time of the evening, but we're coming towards the start of this 60-minute flag-to-flag race here at the Kyalami GP circuit. And Tim, we talked about the interesting timings that we've had in terms of the server race and qualifying start times. 5 o'clock in the morning, it's 13 degrees on track. However, it's nice and sunny, so you'd expect that track to heat up relatively quickly. So it's going to be one of those. You mentioned it in qualifying quite rightly, and as we see, we've got a lovely aerial pan of this Kyalami Grand Prix circuit heading down towards Kotha. You see the start-finish straight at the top left-hand side of that picture, right in the middle of the camera angle itself. But yeah, that track's going to warm up, so tyre pressures, getting them on the money is going to be ultimately very important as they go further into the race this evening.
Definitely. They're going to have to be across those changing conditions, and they have to be aware of where their car's at, where the tyres are at, how they're feeling in terms of the rubber underneath them. I would be surprised if any of them have taken a rubbered in set, a scrub set over from qualifying or practice. The grid should have applied a brand new set of tyres for the race, but they're going to have to be aware of how the track is changing beneath them with those conditions. Like you say, no cloud cover to maybe delay temperature change ambiently, or indeed in terms of the track surface. I think it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that there's a corner called Sunset and we're racing at 5 a.m. and the sun's rising. But just to finish off the point, David, about David Belanger's penalty, it is a 15-second penalty carried over from Mazzano. We've had that confirmed from the steward. So David's going to have to carry that for the race this evening, and let's see how that affects his result, because the top 10 is a very strong performance in qualifying, and what we started to see towards the end of season 1 from the EGT Motorsports driver.
Yeah, absolutely. David Belanger, one of those massively improved drivers from season 1, but like I say, he's got it all to do. And those steward decisions, rather, should we call them, will pop up on your screen as we go through the race. So anytime you get a penalty applied to someone on the on the left-hand side, we will hopefully be able to give you confirmation soon after that is the case as to why that's happened. You can see there from race control, 15-second due to protest result between rounds. And that stewarding has been supplied by Race Department for this series. And we'll just run through those who are very keenly supporting the series, and we're very appreciative of their support. Of course, MSL Motorsport Consultancy being in partnership with Esports Science for this. The Grid Finder Fastest Lap Award, of course, being supplied by Grid Finder themselves. You'd be amazed to believe. The races themselves hosted on Simracing.gp. Porschesport doing some fantastic social media marketing stuff for them, and James McGill doing some, dare I say, sensational snapshots throughout the race, and you're able to see them online afterwards as well. And finally, myself, you, Tim, and Steve Proudley, our broadcast director, being brought to you by Simsport Solutions. Get all of them out there early doors, and hopefully we can leave all of our focus now to the race itself as Kev Critchley leads us through Leacop down the hill towards Mineshaft not too long. And hopefully, Tim, we're going to be setting up as they start to look to form into double file, 60 minutes of frantic action, and hopefully a lot for us to call over the next hour or so now.
Definitely, but look at that view for Kev Critchley as the camera pans around. No cars in front of him, but his mirror is going to be stacked full of angry-looking Caymans. I mean, look at it. Then the cars behind him, Crossman, McGregor, Button, Burke. Look, these are all drivers we know are capable of getting in the top 10, getting in the top 5, getting on the podium. Critchley, if he wins tonight, he's going to have pulled out a fantastic performance. But looking down the order, there are some drivers who are very much capable of scrapping their way through the field. My eyes, like I say, will be on this particular Rocket Simsports car, to the left-hand side of your screen at the moment. Second in that left-hand side row, Luca Burke. Where can our reigning Season 1 champion get up into the order?
Absolutely, as Kev Critchley rounds us through Ingwe to finish off the formation lap. It's going to be a long old run down to what is technically the second corner. They'll go through the kink first and into Crowthorne for the first time as Kev Critchley runs us up to the start finish line to go green here at Kyalami. We are waiting, and we go green here at the Kyalami GP circuit for round 4 of the Cayman Supercup here with eSport Designs and MSL Motorsport Consultancy. Al Buncombe gets a drive through for his troubles, and look at the 2 Rocket Simsport cars all over the back of Ross McGregor and Chris Crossman, but Kev Critchley gets that all-important clean run into Crowthorne and up through the Jux K sweep. Jenson Button there on the left-hand side of Chris Crossman as they go up through towards Barbecue. Ross McGregor, a big beneficiary off the start. 2 Rocket Simsport cars alongside each other, Burke and Buncombe. As we see, Florian Bauer again, a little bit of a tap from behind there. From one of the, I think that was John Clements, he got a tap from behind, but Kev Critchley and Ross McGregor, Tim, disappearing off into the distance early doors while everyone else just fights for positions behind them.
What a start from Ross McGregor. He did exactly what he needed to do in getting past or keeping Crossman at bay into turn 1. That's just fantastic driving from our championship leader. And look at this absolute gaggle of Caymans fighting it out for the final podium spot. Burke, Crossman, Button and Buncombe all going hammer and tongs. You see Button and Buncombe going side to side there. A bit of door banging between the teammates on the run up the hill towards the hairpin. On the inside, the number 22 of Button was looking for a way past both cars at the same time. He's going to have to fall back in line. Crossman doing what he needs to do, because if he can just be in this position now, maybe cost a bit of time for these other drivers, he's going to be helping out his teammate and potential championship contender. As we see one of the Rocket cars going very wide off into Mineshaft, manages to rejoin cleanly and file in behind. But exactly what Critchley and McGregor needed. Get out front, stay clean and kick on.
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, Luca Burke following. I think that was Al Buncombe who went a little bit wide through Mineshaft. I think that's Jenson Button sitting, number 22 car, Jenson Button sitting very close behind Chris Crossman, looking to make a move early doors. He's going to get a lovely amount of finish straight as we head on to lap number 2. Kev Critchley leads from Ross McGregor, who leads from Luca Burke. And Al Buncombe still, of course, sat with that drive-through penalty. I'm not sure whether that's something that the stewards will have a look at or whether that's been automatically applied. So we'll have to serve that within the next 3 laps. But it's all battling further down the field. Oscar Sandberg under pressure from John Clements going into Crowthorne as Bastian Zenefels looks to make a move on Deva Belanger, who's dropped down a position from the start. John Clements sitting in 9th place with Cloutier making a couple of moves up as well. Florian Bauer, Tim, the big loser off the start, he's down to 14th, just ahead of teammate Steve Hinder, who's gained a couple. Look at Tom Ryer, though. He's come from 24th on the grid up to 16th already. What a barnstorm of a start from the MSL Motorsport car.
Exactly what he needed. I was just going to add on to that final point. McIntyre hasn't gone anywhere. He's still dead last in the order. As we see Florian Bauer running very wide there in an attempt to get past Pierre-Olivier Cloutier on the run through Sunset. He manages to gather the car up underneath him. But look at the back of this train. There's the blue and white MSL car of Raya. A fantastic start for him. He's on the outskirts of the points and moving forward. Momentum is definitely with our Spa pole sitter. Let's see how much further up the order he can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, no pit stops this evening. It is 60 minutes of pure aggressive flag-to-flag racing as Chris Crossman still under pressure from Jenson Button. It's not the ideal person you want in your rearview mirror. A former Formula 1 world champion sat right behind you. We know how quick he's going to be as they go down in towards the Crocodiles for the second time. Still 56 minutes to go, of course, so plenty more trips down there. As Al Buncombe goes wide, he's going to put himself under a bit of pressure from Ben Hitz and Oscar Sandberg. As you can see there, number 23 car confirming, starting out of position on the start. So that drive-through for Buncombe is going to stay. As you can see there, peels off into pit lane to serve that. Of course, as the game's just 3 laps to serve that, otherwise you'll get slapped with a disqualification, so you need to get that done. But I'm just looking in the background, Tim. Jenson Button all over the back of Chris Crossman, but it's Ben Hitz, Jack Noller, Oscar Sandberg, David Belanger. They all look like we just hopefully will catch them as they go into Crowthorne in a minute, but it looks like they're about 5 or 6 wide going into the first corner. Wow. Look at them. Gaggle of Caymans.
Yeah, they're all stuck together, aren't they? They can't settle this dispute. It's something out of a WWE wrestling match, isn't it? Look how many cars are just in the ring fighting it out as Hits get spat out wide up through the Just K sweep and into Barbecue. He's on the inside of Noller there. There's contact behind. That's David Belanger into the left rear corner of Noller. That sends the pair of them spinning over the crest through Barbecue and dropping down the order. Hopefully not too many cars were caught out in that, but that was going to be race deciding, I fear, for the pair of them. But look who that's benefited. Raya up to P9, as well as Aaron Martin Pilkington up to 12th. He's certainly putting a stranglehold on that Fast Forward Championship.
Absolutely, yeah. Tom Raya saying, yeah, I want to get that Fast Forward Championship win. And Martin Pilkington, hold my beer. I'm going to do just as much as you can, Sodershine. Just you wait and see. Sticking as close as he can to the back of that MSL Motorsports car in that Rothmans inspired livery. Jenson Button, though, disappearing off the back as he's struggling to keep up with, well, not struggling to keep up, sorry, but he's starting to be dropped away from Luca Burt, Ross McGregor and Kev Critchley, the top three at the moment. He's a second and a half back from them and struggling to get past Chris Crossman. I don't think he's necessarily the difficulty of the fact that Jenson Button can't make the move. I just think that Chris is doing a fantastic job of holding him back. John Clement sitting in 6th place. Oscar Samba, look at this gaggle again. Steve Hinden dropping down the order. Unfortunately, looks like he might have been caught up. He's got Bradley Brockies and Regan Mitchell for close company as he tries to put the moves on David Belanger. He'll be well aware he's got that 15-second penalty, but it won't deter him from making the move as they go into Crocodile, down towards Cheetah. And moves all over the shop at the moment, Tim. Very, very hard for us to keep a track of. We see some dust being kicked up through Cheetah. That'll be from Zenefeld. You see Jack McIntyre spinning around there. Horrible start from the Zancho Simsport car. He's in the wall. And as a result, it looks like he's going to get the car going again. But that's going to put him even further back and putting his championship credentials under a lot of pressure now. Definitely.
I mean, he needed to score some good points this evening. He's third in the championship coming into this race. I'm really surprised at his position on the grid. Hopefully we find out post-race what was going on there in terms of qualifying. Maybe just couldn't get a lap together as we see Passport past Nolla for the final point in 15th place. But that's going to pay crucial impact on his championship as Passport again tries to defend from Nolla, who we saw turned at barbecue on the previous lap. That there's storylines up and down the order at the moment, and everyone seems to be moving in the opposite direction to the way we would have hoped. Besides that top six who are all glued together still, it looks like our race leader, Kev Critchley, is doing exactly what he needs to do. Burke, the man on the move though, purple lap last time round, he's looking to kick on and get himself up towards the back of McGregor.
Absolutely, yes. You see staying Passport in the Simsport Racing Machine and treble 4 car under a bit of pressure. Jack Nolla made the move going into the S's as we went very wide. He got Darrell Upton up the inside into Lee Kopp. He's got David Belanger around the outside. He's got Steve Hinden behind him. He's like being pinched in a police chase at the moment. He's got everyone around him from all different angles. He's really up against it at the moment. He's going to be very hot and heavy in that car at the moment. He's going to be struggling to get around. He goes down towards Mineshaft. He's going to look to make the move on Bastian Zenefeld. Darrell Upton, sorry. In fact, it is Bastian Zenefeld's. Apologies for getting the confusion there, as he manages to just about hold the move at the inside, but he just had dropped back into Cheetah. That's not going to be a place where two cars are going to fit through, so sensibly elects to kind of hold back. And you can see in the picture Chris Crossman still holding off Jenson Button and Ross McGregor still holding off Luca Burke, and that is allowing Kev Critchley to check off out front. We said that Luca Burke put in a purple lap, but Kev Critchley has got that all-important clear air in front of him and is continuing to keep that lead intact, and that is exactly what he wants to do to him for his championship credentials this evening.
Half a second faster on that previous tour of the Kailami Grand Prix circuit. That is the pace that's going to see him disappear up the road, and McGregor's going to start thinking, okay, I actually don't have the pace to catch the race leader. And I think, we can say that as early as 9 minutes in. Drama's going to have to before Critchley, or he's going to have to let his pace slip if anyone stands a chance of reeling him in. But look at these battles up and down the order. I'm looking as well at Sandberg and Raya are now together in 8th and 9th, then Florian Bauer in 10th. And on your screen here, Thomas Lavoie in 11th place, with Aaron Martin Pilkington for company and Kieran Vidago in the Simsport Solutions and Simsport Racing cars respectively on their run through the S's. But the pace at the front is phenomenal from Critchley. As we can see in the picture, that looks like McGregor coming under fire from Burke. And as they battle, as they run down into Crocodiles through Mineshaft, Critchley is just, rubbing his hands with glee as they battle and engage in a little bit of tussling. He's just going to start disappearing up the road.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope he's not actually rubbing his hands, because otherwise that would be
2 hands on the wheel, Kev.
Exactly. 10 and 2, 9 and 3, whichever one you prefer. I would say 9 and 3 is probably more beneficial to driving a car as quickly as these guys are at the moment. I did just see Ben Hitz. He's dropped down to 13th. You see that's Passpont there going a little bit wide and allowing to show Steve Hindon a little bit of space, and he's not going to ask twice for that move to happen. And then he goes and loses another position, it looks like, to Belanger, but he catches the sausage curb on the inside of Cheetah, and that's going to give Passport the chance of Regan Mitchell looking to get in on the show as well into Ingwe. Oh, a little bit of door bashing. I think that's probably fair play, to be honest. I think it's a bit of a racing incident, nothing coming there. But yeah, Ben Hitz looked like he was off onto the grass. They came through the S's, but look at these lot. Al Buncombe in for good fun as well. He's now served his drive-through penalty we mentioned all over the back of Regan Mitchell, side to side. He's making a couple of moves to try and get that one done. Goes up the inside of Belanger and tries to go round the outside of Mitchell. Bit of coming together, bit clumsy there for Buncombe, going into a move that maybe shouldn't have happened, but fortunately both cars pointing in the right direction. But unbelievable stuff so far. It's still, as we go 10 minutes into this race, amazingly we're 10 minutes in already of this 60-minute sprint race here in the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup, but Kev Critchley leads by 3 and a couple of tenths of a second from Ross McGregor, who's being closely harried and followed by Luca Burke. Chris Crossman in 4th place with Jenson Button a couple of tenths back, and then it's a fairly sizable gap, you would suggest, of 5 seconds back to John Clements in the podium Sim Racing 88 machine, with Oscar Sandberg, Tom Ryer, Florian Barron, amazingly Aaron Martin Pilkington rounding out your top 10. I think that shows, Tim, just the pace that Aaron has got in these Caymans when he doesn't get caught up in incidents at the top end of these races.
He's able to just find his way through the order, isn't he, and just skip through up to 10th place. But whilst you were chatting over the battle there, David, down with Buncombe and Mitchell, Passport and co, McGregor is under fire now from Burke, and Burke wants to get past. He's made a couple of attempts at a move that hasn't been able to see it off cleanly as they ran down towards Crowthorne on the previous lap. Burke looked for the way through, then on the run into Sunset he showed one up the inside in an attempt to force McGregor wider into a mistake and slide that Rocket Simsport car through. But again, looking to the inside, just hanging around in the mirrors of Ross McGregor, causing him a headache. Look, they're so close together through the apex, and on the exit and the run up the hill through the Just K sweep, Burke wants to get past, because Crossman has been able to gap Button in the previous few laps. He's now got a gap of a second, and he's looking to latch onto the back of our reigning champion and catch up onto these podium spots. So look, Burke, if he doesn't get past McGregor soon, is going to have to start looking in those mirrors, and once you do that, time is just left out on the track. An interesting battle forming between these guys for the final couple of spots on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the timing boards on Pitwall Live at the moment ago on the final lap, Chris Crossman a second quicker than Luca Burke and 1.1 seconds quicker than Ross McGregor in second. So like you say, he's definitely latching onto the back of these guys and leaving Jenson Button in a cloud of virtual dust as well. But it's all going up Kev Critchley's way at the moment. 4.1 seconds gap ahead on lap 7, as the track now hits an optimum state. It's not got warmer yet, but I'm sure it will as the sun continues to rise here at Kyalami in this quartet. It's second, third, fourth and fifth, and it's very importantly first and second in the championship, who we're focusing on right now. Ross McGregor, of course, leading the championship from Luca Burke, and it just shows you how quick Luca Burke is. The fact that he didn't actually compete in the race at Catalunya, but still somehow has the ability to be second in the championship, all things considered. Looks to the inside of Ingwe, just giving Ross McGregor a bit of a reminder, if he's not already aware, which I'm sure he is, that he is in fact behind him in that Rocket Simsport car. But as you mentioned, Tim, all of this gives Chris Crossman the chance to catch up, and like you say, it's much easier being the one that's following than it is being the one in front. And Chris Crossman's going to be licking his lips, because I think he's probably thinking there's definitely a chance of a podium on the horizon for me.
Definitely as well. And with the handful of long straights here at Kyalami, to run down the hill out of Ingwe through the not really turn one, the kink into Crowthorne, plentiful time for a slipstream. And here out of Barbecue, the run up towards Sunset, another good opportunity to gain from being in behind the car in front, as we see Burke just running a little bit wide on the exit of Barbecue, losing some time through the apex. Look how much more speed he carries, but it's just understeer almost in the aero wash off the back of McGregor's Cayman as they run through Sunset through the left-hander here in towards the S's. Burke's just doing this weaving and ducking and weaving to just distract McGregor. Look, the pass isn't really on. Burke doesn't seem to be able to get the overlap coming out of the corner onto the straight, or indeed in the brakes. He can get very close, as we'll see here, into the hairpin. Look, closes right up under the rear wing of McGregor. This is a brilliant shot from Steve Proudley, our broadcast director here at Simsport Solutions. But Burke isn't able to just get alongside, just get his front wheels alongside the rear wheels of McGregor's Cayman as they run through mineshaft. Burke again looking to the inside, better on the brakes. In fact, is this the move as they go side by side through the crocodiles? McGregor just able to hold that speed around the outside, and Burke again an unsuccessful attempt at taking second place from the championship leader as they both run wide through Cheetah and into the final corner at Ingways. And look behind Burke, Crossman has closed right up and he'll be benefiting from a slipstream now as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You see Ross McGregor jinks to the inside to try and cut away from that toe. Interestingly, Luca Burke not following him, and that's going to put him under a bit of pressure from Chris Crossman. We've got a perfect view of any move that Chris is going to make in that BD Motorsports number 3 car. Doesn't go for it into Crowthorne. Luca Burke late on the brakes, or dinking it up the inside. Very, very close there. I see Bastian Zennefeld's got a 30-second penalty, so hopefully we'll get confirmation as to what's caused that over the next couple of minutes. I'm assuming that's been applied from the stewards from a first lap incident, because I know he was caught up in a couple of them. Obviously dropped down as a result, but Ross is just doing exactly what he needs to do. The most important thing when it comes to this, you see actually Luca Burke, we'll come back to that in a second, going around the outside of Sunset. This is not where a move normally gets made, but it's going to change to the inside. Sorry, yeah, it goes change to the inside into Clubhouse, but Chris Crossman all over the back of him as well. Ross McGregor holds on to the position, and you see their confirmation excuse me, that Bastian Zennefeld's getting a 30-second penalty for causing the spin with Hippazine himself and David Belanger. We saw that coming through barbecue on the second lap, and a couple of other people getting caught up in that as well. But Ross is just doing exactly what he needs to do, holding the line he would take normally into the corners. He's not being distracted by Luca making those dashes to the inside, is he, Tim? And he's just running the line he needs to, and as a result, he's making it very, very difficult for Luca to make any move at the moment.
Well, look, this is the championship battle on the screen at the moment. This could be all crucial come the final round at Silverstone. Whichever one of these drivers finishes in front here could be on a run to see them take the championship. As we see, Burke goes to the inside into Crocodile's clean move. McGregor tries to fight back, though, on the run through the left and up towards Cheetah, but no, Burke through cleanly. So he did make the move, and he has made it stick as well. McGregor, now down to third place. Undoubtedly, he's going to be under fire from Crossman, who's managed to bring Button into the play as well. So, for here, all battling out for these final 2 spots on the podium. Let's see if Burke can kick on now and set about closing a 6.3 second gap to our race leader, Kev Critchley. Or does McGregor try and fight back into Crowthorne? He had a look. So, yeah, plenty of battle still to be had. Let's see if McGregor can fight back, whether Burke's going to be able to scamper off into the distance.
Absolutely. If you're watching and you've got the pit wall timing screen on your screen as well, then keep a keen eye on Luca Burke's lap as he comes onto this. Will be his first lap in full clean air, and we'll see whether he does manage to drop Ross McGregor. I keep making the same mistake as you did there, Tim. The 2 mucks in the Zancho Simsport cars. Interestingly, the other one, Jack McIntyre's actually got a 15-second penalty. I've been reading through the steward reports. That's for a contact with Regan Mitchell, unfortunately for him. So the race wasn't going great anyway. It's gone from bad to even worse now. But look at Ross McGregor. He's all sorts of under pressure going into the S's from Chris Crossman. Sideways through the first apex. Keeps it clean on the second one. A Jensen Button tagging on for fun as well. And unbelievably, this is the battle for the final podium position. We've still got 42 minutes left to go, chaps. We don't need to be making too many daring moves early doors, but I'll certainly be very pleased if you carry on doing what you're doing, as long as it doesn't end in tears, and it hasn't done so far. The racecraft from this top 4, or this 4th, 2nd through to 5th battle has been absolutely second to none. One thing we'll have to keep an eye on, Tim, is John Clements. He's still a few seconds back from these guys at the moment, but he's got Tom Ryer and Oscar Sandberg for company. If any one of those, or if these guys keep on battling, we could see anywhere down to 8th and 9th really start to tag onto the back of this lot as well if they battle for too many more laps.
Well, that's exactly what we'd like to see, wouldn't it, to be David? But interesting you say, it's been a battle that's been second to none. Well, it's been second to Kev Critchley because he's still 6.5 seconds up the road. Burke's made best his escape from this battle pack. Let's see if the gap changes as they cross the line. No, they're pretty much matched on lap times on that previous tour of the Kyalami circuit. Critchley a 50.4, Burke a 50.3. So, but he hasn't got the pace at the moment to start knocking some serious lumps out of Critchley's race lead. But yeah, Critchley, Burke and then McGregor hanging on to third for now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Crossman putting in a move shortly and Button making his best attempt to follow through. And in fact, Button getting a great run out of barbecues all over the back of the number 3 BD racing car on the run up to Sunset, unable to make the move into the long right-hander before Clubhouse, but he is looking to the inside still. Crossman having to go defensive on the way into the left-hander. Button should be able to get a better exit out of the left-hander. We're on the run towards the S's, but so tricky to make a move here into the left-right as you go downhill, hit the bottom, and the car kind of scrapes almost the front left splitter, just hitting the ground and the curb. Run back up the hill towards the hairpin. Button not quite close enough, but is he going to go for a move? Yes. Sends one up the inside of Crossman, but runs deep. Crossman's going to be able to get the cut back as Button runs off the track, and he holds on to 4th place for now. A clear statement of intent from Button, though. He wants through. And just like you say, David, now, just behind John Clements and Sandberg, you're going to see that the cars in front are getting ever so closer in their windscreens.
Absolutely. Last of the late breakers from Jenson Button, just a little bit too late. I wonder if he was going to make the move, but yeah, just dipped a wheel onto the gravel on the outside, and as a result, that screwed up the chance of an overtake. But I'm sure he'll be back on the back of Chris Crossman in a couple of laps' time without any doubt. We're going to jump back a little bit further down the field. Jack Noller trying to make the moves on Thomas Lavoie in the EGT Motorsport car. They've got Ben Hitz just ahead of them, and they've got Bastian Zenefels just behind. Of course, he's carrying that 30-second penalty, so he's going to drop down the timing chart at the end of this evening's race in 40 minutes' time. Regan Mitchell closely followed by Al Buncombe, Steve Hinden closely followed by David Belanger. There's pockets of battles just really continuing to form at the moment, and we're seeing, as we saw in season 1 here at Kyalami, we're seeing some fantastic racing once more. And the beautiful thing we're seeing is the fact that it's actually really, really good racing from everyone as well. Like I say, we've seen a couple of penalties and they've been fairly applied, I think. Obviously, we like to stick unbiased in the commentary box, but I like to think that was a fairly avoidable incident from Zenefels, who's been the one who's got the penalty. Obviously, we haven't seen the one from McIntyre. However, all of the racing we're seeing so far has been very fiercely but very competently and carefully executed, which is what we like to see.
Definitely, and that's what you get when you get a bunch of drivers who are all rapid in their own rights, all stuck in the same machinery, trying to scrap it out around the same circuit. You know, these guys are so close in terms of their competitive level. I wouldn't want to come up against anyone from the front to the back of the order. You know, they're so quick in their own right. So that's why we get these pockets of battles as well, because really what costs you time is fighting. What costs you time in your own almost time trial, 60 minutes, how clean, how fast can I go till the end, is fighting with those other cars. And two drivers who have made an impact so far are Oscar Sandberg and Tom Ryer on screen at the moment. Sandberg started in 12th and now up to 7th, but Ryer starts all the way down in 23rd and he's up to 8th place at the moment as Sandberg runs wide through Crocodiles. That's going to allow Ryer up the inside into Cheetahs, and he's got the job done. So that's a change of position. So just as I say, these two are going cleanly and not spending too much fighting. They decide to start exchanging blows. The commentators curse as always, but some great runs from drivers up and down the order, both inside the points now. And Ryer proving why he's a force to be reckoned with in this series. Would have been great to see him qualify towards the front, because I think he'd be causing a headache for those top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonder if he does get anywhere further up the field, or if he changes tune for the 90-minute race at Paul Ricard in a week's time. You can see a penalty for the number 36 machine. That is Jack Noller, not necessarily as comfortably as he was at Kyalami last season, causing the number 21 car to spin. That's Darrell Upton, the podium sim racing car. And Tim, I'm just looking back at the timings from the last lap. Fastest of anyone in the race so far, Luca Burke with a 1:49.9. Amazingly, that's what, 4 or 5 tenths off of the pole position time, and they've got at least 36 minutes minutes worth of fuel in the tank still. It's clearly showing you that Luca Burke is really appreciating the clean air he's got, as he's managed to get past McGregor, as we know. Oscar Sandberg, fortunately for him, he's managed to hold on to the back of Tom Ryer. Tom will be looking to dispatch him and get a little bit further up the road and try and put John Clements under pressure. I'm going to be really intrigued and keeping an eye on the MSL Motorsport driver, just to see, if he does manage to get past John Clements, of course, because that's not a done thing. It'd be interesting to see, if he does get past him, whether he can start to tag onto the back of this fight for what is currently the 3rd place podium. Is Ross McGregor, interestingly, has actually lost the position to Chris Crossman. I'm not sure when we missed that one, but hopefully we can get a replay at some point to see whether that move was a mistake from Ross or whether it was a move from Chris. But Chris Crossman in BD Motorsports car is up into 3rd place. So 2 BD Motorsport cars on the podium as it stands.
Brilliant stuff for them as a team to be 1-3 at the moment. Burke, the Rocket Simsport Cayman in that sandwich. So yeah, it's great that you mentioned, David, about him going quicker. Burke did go faster on that previous lap to the tune of 2 tenths. but it's only 2/10 out of Critchley's near 6.5-second lead. And on that previous lap, Critchley still consistent in the 50.1s. I think he's just been doing those lap times all day. He could probably do them with his eyes closed, but he was 3/10 faster than Burke on that last lap. So again, Burke unable to start closing that gap to our race leader in terms of, consistently being quicker across lap time. Critchley, in the 13 laps he's completed so far, averaging a 50.3. Burke averaging a 50.6. So again, it's not enough at the moment for Burke to start closing up and really making an impact in that lead.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all coming up Kev Critchley at the moment. He'll be very pleased with how this race is going. Of course, pole position by only a couple of hundredths of a second from his teammate Chris Crossman, who currently sits in third, with, like I say, Rocket Simsport driver, the number 87 machine, Luca Burke, reigning champion here in the Cayman Supercup, sitting in second place. Ross McGregor on your screen at the moment is sitting in fourth. He's still at the moment top of the championship leaderboard. However, might be loosening his grip on that top spot if the race continues as it is. Jenson Button sitting in fifth place. Good display from him so far, but he'll be wanting to try and get himself a little bit further at the timing charts as well, with John Clements a little bit further back. We're going to cut to a replay. This looks like it's going to be the move, or the mistake it looks like, from Ross McGregor. As you see, gets on the curb going through the first apex of the S's and gets himself onto the grass, and Chris Crossman will say, "Thank you very much, I'll take that one, good sir," and gets himself up into a podium position.
Well gathered up though from McGregor. He didn't get flustered or try and overcorrect the instant. It looked like he just got out of it, run across the runoff there, and skipped across the grass and back onto the racing surface. I hate, I'm going to apply the label to it. Championship driving, that kind of thing from McGregor. He's now still in fourth place, relatively unscathed from the incident. Okay, yeah, he's lost a couple of spots with racing, as we see Vidago going very wide through the final corner at Ingwe. That's going to allow Hitz through and up into 11th place. Vidago looking like he's going to fight back almost immediately, tucks into the slipstream on the run down the hill. Hitz goes defensive on the run into Crowthorne. Let's see as they go into the left-hander whether Vidago can get the overlap. But Hitz understeering out wide through the tight left-hander. Vidago trying to fight back, unable to do so on the run up the hill through the Just K sweep and into Barbecue. But just back to my previous point, actually Hitz running wide there, and Vidago looking for a way through, but unable to get it done. McGregor, he secured his race there. That could have been an easy opportunity to get flustered, one too many overcorrections of the steering, and find yourself heading off towards the barrier. McGregor keeps his race alive, but also with 2.5 minutes, or nearly 3 minutes, David, to go until the midpoint of this race. Midpoint of the season is nearly up upon us. So McGregor clearly got his eyes on the checkered flag at Silverstone, let alone the checkered flag tonight at Kyalami.
Absolutely, Tim. As you can see there, confirmation that cars 120 and car number 6 will be investigated after the race. That's Oscar Sandberg and Ben Hitz, due to multiple collisions across multiple laps. That's always an interesting one, so we'll have to see what will happen between now and Paul Ricard next week to see if there's going to be any retrospective action applied against those two, because that suggests that they've been having a few coming together over the last few laps. Of course, the stewarding system that the guys at Race Department are using does monitor every single bit of contact that comes between them. It's a fantastic tool and then gives them the timestamp to go and investigate. So clearly they've gone, right, we've seen 3 or 4 of these now. Let's just put a pin in it. Let's focus on the rest of the race, and we'll have a look at these later on, and we'll see what we need to do. So something to keep an eye out for. You see Regan Mitchell in the back of your screen going wide through Cheetah and losing a little bit of time to this gaggle of cars. It's Ben Hitt from Kieran Vidago from Thomas Lavoie. Very, very closely followed by Jack Noller, followed by his Bastions NFLs in 15th at this moment in time. Of course, the NFLs in the current final points paying position. Of course, we're going down to 15 this season. Jack Noller just shifting his nose at the inside. Thomas Lavoie goes a little bit wide. I don't think it looked like there was any contact between the two of them, but up through the Just K sweep, Jack Noller around the outside. Congratulations, that man. Give that man a round of applause if you've got the chance to, because that was a fantastic move. And Lavoie dropping back into the clutches of Bastions NFLs now. He's going to be very careful to not lose another position as they go towards sunset, as NFLs shakes to the inside. But Thomas Lavoie goes, no, thank you, good man. You're not having any of that. You can stay behind me for at least a couple more corners. I've got some bigger fish to fry, and I'm going to try and get back Jack Noller at any point in the next couple of laps, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, Nola wanted that position, didn't he? He wasn't going to accept no for an answer as he sent it in towards Crowthorne and then up the hill through the Just K sweep. He's really on a comeback charge now after the incident. A shame that that penalty will be added to his time, and I think we'll see him drop down the order, unfortunately, because of how close everyone is still. You know, this battle outside top 13 here, separated by a few tenths or a second here or there. It's not quite enough to see Nola hold on to a points position at the moment. But this man, at the top of the standings, unchallenged. Kev Critchley's, we had, 25 seconds away from halfway through the season, and he's looking like he's back, basically. BD Racing's Kev Critchley is back and definitely reasserting himself in the championship challenge.
Absolutely, yeah. Unfortunately, like I say, didn't manage to see Kev at Spa a couple of weeks ago, so I'm hoping he's definitely not lost any momentum in his title challenge in this win. Or if he continues on the way he is, he's still got a 6-second gap back to Luca Burke, who's then got a 4-second gap back to Chris Crossman. Is still looking pretty for a win this evening. With, like I say, just gone past half distance in this 60-minute race, round 4 of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup here at the Kyle Army GP circuit. We go back down a little bit further down the field to the final points paying position. Sebastian Zenefels currently in that position. However, that's going to go to, well, you'd assume it's going to go to Al Buncombe at the moment, courtesy of Jack Nolla and Zenefels both having time penalties to be taken at the end of the race. And it's certainly one of those gaggles that is really starting to come up a little bit, as you see Sebastian Zenefels going a little bit wide out of barbecue. That's going to give Regan Mitchell the chance to get alongside as they go into Sunset. He's going to try and shake to the outside and makes the move before even hitting the apex of the corner. I wondered if he's going to be trying to do one of those ones where he just tries to get the inside line into Sunset, doesn't need into Clubhouse, but doesn't need to, because he's got the move done before the corner even starts itself. And it's a fantastic move from Regan Mitchell. We've said this plenty of times. He is one of those drivers who just gets his head down and gets it done. However, Tim, I know you like a stat, and I'm sure you've got a stat about Regan Mitchell that you don't want to have to say, but it's one that's very interesting indeed, considering the performances he's put in.
Well, we talk about
since the start of race 1, season 1.
Yeah, we talk about being consistent, don't we, and how important that is. Up until the Spa round of the previous race last week, Mitchell had scored points in every round of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup to date. That includes season 1 and indeed the first 2 races of season 2. Coming to blows in the opening lap, kind of skirmish and battling. Spa really saw that run come to an end, but testament to him, the only driver to have done that out of the umpteen number of drivers we've had in this series. So congratulations to Mitchell for making it that far. I think it's going to take a lot to beat that, and we could see his record stand for a little while yet. But Mitchell back up into the points, pretending as if Spa never happened. It's exactly what we like to see.
Absolutely, yeah. And let's just bear in mind, Tim, he only finished 17th in the last round at Spa, so he's only 2 positions off of it. So all things considered, still a fantastic job from him. Just looking up the timing tower, Tom Ryer catching up at John Clements now, who's actually catching up to the back of Jenson Button. They're all starting to file out a little bit in the top 5 at the moment. It's Kev Critchley from Luca Burke at the moment. They've got a 6-second gap between them, 4 seconds back to Chris Crossman currently sitting in the final podium position. 2 seconds behind him is Ross McGregor, followed another couple of seconds back from Jenson Button, and then John Clements a couple of seconds back again, going in 2x2 hurrah at the moment, with Tom Ryan just under 2 seconds back from the podium sim racing car at the moment. But John Clements had a fairly quiet race so far, but still doing the business. Started 9th on the grid and went up a couple of positions courtesy of pass of Ben Hitz and Al Buncombe getting a drive-through penalty. But going back to Al Buncombe, Tim, he's had a fantastic race, all things considered. Like I say, it was unfortunate for him to get that penalty applied for being out of position on the start sequence. However, he's not let that deter him, to be perfectly honest, because he's right back up here and still fighting for some really decent points so far.
This is what we like to see, isn't it, from Buncombe? This is the kind of racing we want to see from him, the driver from number 23 Rocket Simsport car. He was within an outside chance of the championship in the previous season. He is incredibly fast at the wheel of one of these Caymans, and as we see, a little bit of contact there. NFL sending up the inside of Mitchell into Crocodiles, getting it all crossed up, side to side contacts. We see now Buncombe trying to get through on Mitchell and into the points. But yeah, Buncombe making his way back through the order cleanly, and that, I think it's a bit, Buncombe, as experienced as he is, fair to say, much improved in this race. Yeah, okay, the drive through at the start for being out of position, that's a crease to iron out. He's fought his way through the order nice and cleanly, and to be on the outskirts of the points, considering he served the drive through in the opening couple of laps, a really creditable drive from the number 23.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially considering the quality of the field. Sees NFL's just getting a little bit out of losing a bit of composure going into the first couple of corners as they go into Crowthorne, losing the position to David Belanger. Of course, would lose the position courtesy of that time penalty against his name anyway. Top 10 as it stands. Kev Critchley from Luca Burke from Chris Crossman, Ross McGregor in 4th, Jenson Button in 5th, John Clements, Tom Ryer, Oscar Sandberg, Florian Bauer still sitting in the top 10. He's managed to get himself back up there as well. And Aaron Martin Pilkington still sitting in 10th place, a couple of seconds back at the moment from Bauer. So not the chance to get any time back. We're understanding that Jenson Button had a slight off-track excursion, should we call it, on the last lap, which is why he's lost a bit of time to the back of Ross McGregor. You can see that actually, yeah, just look at the timings on Pitwall Live, Tim, a 1:52.7 versus Ross McGregor's 1:50.9. So a little bit of a grass cutting from the former Formula One world champion, the number 22 Rocket Simsport car. Of course, missed him at the race at Spa last week. Of course, he was flying back from Barcelona. You may know that he does a little bit of punditry in his spare time, and unfortunately couldn't get it back in time for this one. But he's back for this one at Kyalami. You know he's very quick around here, and still 25 minutes, just under 25 minutes left. If anything's still to happen, I would like to think that he's probably still in with a chance of potential podium position.
And those pesky freelance jobs getting in the way of Jenson Button's sim racing career, eh? Brilliant to see him fighting. But yeah, that time's going to cost him. Clements closing up. That 5th place is not secure yet for the number 22, but a position that is looking ever more solidified is at the top of the standings. Critchley again able to match Burke, and in fact better him on that previous lap by the tune of nearly 0.3 of a second. So Burke unable to take that gap, is yet to go below 6 seconds. So the race leader is looking in fine fettle heading into the final 24 minutes.
Absolutely, yeah, looking very good indeed. And I think it's just testament to the consistency of Kev Critchley, because Luca Burt, yes, he's been quicker on a handful of occasions. He's already got a grid finder fastest lap set of gloves on his way, so he's not going to be getting any for this one. So it will go to the next fastest lap. Otherwise, you'd expect that if anyone got a handful of them, they'd probably be sport of a choice in which ones they'd use. They'd be able to use one for every day of the week.
Not enough pairs of hands, though.
No, exactly.
Need as many hands as our broadcast director, Steve Proudley.
Absolutely. I am still convinced for the record that Steve Proudley is in fact an octopus. I know he's got 8 screens in front of him, which is plenty enough to keep abreast of all that's happening, and he does a fantastic job of it week in, week out, and he's focusing on the battle between Stane Passpont and Jack McIntyre at the moment. McIntyre, of course, in the wars and caught up in a couple of incidents early on for not qualifying in this race this evening, but looks to switch back and gets the move done on Passpont into the S's. Really, really well crafted move from the number 37 Zancho Simsport machine car there. Out of the points it stands, and Stane Passpont, we've seen a few times whenever we've cut to him on camera, he's been under pressure from all sorts of angles. He's still got, there's that Darrell Upton on the right hand side of him as they go through a leak up. He's trying to make a move around the outside, and series organiser and manager Steve Hinden and livery designer extraordinaire, that sounds like something out of Game of Thrones, to be honest, is putting him under pressure as well. It's unbelievable stuff at the moment.
And Steve getting through as well on the run down the hill through Mineshaft. There, Upton's trying to fight back through the right-hander, goes deep. Hinden, but actually both cars just washing out wide and costing themselves time in the fight. As we the timing tower on the left-hand side, Button has closed the gap to McGregor. So the number 22 for 30 coming to the closing the gap. Sorry, to the 33. Looks like McGregor's potentially struggling. I mean, he's the slowest by a tune of maybe 3 or 4 tenths out of the top 5 in that previous lap. So it's not all said and done for the championship leader, currently running around in 4th place. He's got a very quick Button closing in and behind.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Still plenty to play for as we come into the final 22 minutes of this evening's race. We've bypassed the halfway point of the championship, and it's currently sitting pretty at the top of the leaderboard. He's certainly still in first place. Like you say, he's putting those consistent laps in, which is all he really needs to be doing. He's keeping that gap at a relatively comfortable 6 tenths of a second, and Jenson Button will be firmly focused on the back of the man on your screen now, Ross McGregor, in that Zancho Simsport number 33 machine. And still potentially, Tim, a chance if Button can make the move over the next few laps. Of course, that's assuming he can gain that 1.1 second gap back in due course. Still potentially going to be focusing towards the back end of that BD Motorsports car in the form of Chris Crossman and potentially trying to get himself a second podium of the season. You see confirmation there of Bastian Zennefeld's getting another, actually, sorry, I was going to say confirmation of something we heard earlier, but a 45-second time penalty for the podium sim racing car now, causing Regan Mitchell to spin. I think that was the incident we caught a couple of laps ago, Tim, as they went into the crocodiles. You saw, I think you mentioned it, very appropriately mentioned that Bastian Zennefeld's got a little bit crossed up and then went into the side of Mitchell. So not a race for the podium sim racing driver to remember this evening, unfortunately.
Yeah, and those 45 seconds is an accumulation of multiple penalties. And I'm sure the stewards will correct us post-race if I'm wrong on this, but I believe 15 seconds is the smallest penalty they can hand out in terms of their actions for any kind of mistake or incident. So the NFL's racking them up, and it's one of those snowball effects. Look, you go into one incident, something happens, you get handed a penalty, you can be flustered from that, a bit annoyed that you've been handed the decision from the stewards, and then next time you're side to side by someone, maybe you're still a bit fired up and the red mist has descended and you can make another mistake and cost yourself more unnecessary time with another penalty. So the race unravelling for ZFLs, as like we see on screen at the moment, McGregor is going to be under fire soon from another Rocket Simsport car. He's soaking up the pressure pretty well this race. We've only seen that one mistake from him, but looking back in the back of shot there's Button, but he's harried on by Clements in the number 88 podium sim racing car, who's decided to bring Tom Riot with him just for fun as well, the number 2 MSL Motorsport car, coming all the way through from 23rd on the grid to be 7th. And I'm pretty sure this race isn't over yet for the driver who's only in his second event in the season.
Absolutely. We're going to hit to a replay so we can see an incident involving Jack McIntyre as he comes out of the first couple of corners into the Drix case coming up towards Barbecue. He's going to lose it, I think I heard it from confirmation from Steve there. He's just gone a little bit wide. You can see him going wide coming out of Barbecue. Oh, very crossed up at the moment. Oh,
wow.
Good avoiding action from Passpont there. Very alert to the danger and manages to get himself out of the way. But yeah, like you said before, Tim, focusing on Tom Ryer for just a second, obviously, like I say, fantastic work from the MSL Motorsport driver to get all the way up from 23rd up to 7th on the grid as it stands. However, he's got a little bit of a bone. He's got a little bit of a bone to play with the fact that he was under a lot of pressure, shall we say, from the Zancho and Rocket Simsport cars last week. So he's going to be wanting to dish out, not necessarily of revenge, probably a slightly strong way of putting
return the favour, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. He's going to want to return the favour sooner rather than later. And confirmation seen from Paul Glover in the YouTube chat there, one of the stewards, official confirmation that 15 seconds is the lowest penalty anyone can get. I believe that gets doubled for first lap incidents, which does explain why ZFL's got that 30-second penalty on the first couple of laps there.
Yeah, another race unravelling, unfortunately, is NFL's and McIntyre's we saw in that replay, dropping the car once again, just getting out onto the grass on the exit of Barbecue. And we saw him on lap 2, I think it was, or potentially even the first lap, losing the car on the run into the final corner at Ingwe. As here's Kieran Vidago under pressure from Buncombe on the run up the hill towards the hairpin. Buncombe looking to the inside. Vidago goes to the outside. Buncombe just last of the late breakers up the inside. I feel like that was fairly accepting of Vidago. Didn't want to get too involved there and potentially run the risk of a collision as he tucks in just behind the Rocket Simsport car on the run through Mineshaft through the fast left. And then the track opens up. It's that camera shot doesn't really do it justice, but the track seems to widen dramatically on the run in. Speaking of wide, Buncombe's gone all 4 wheels off the track surface and Vidago's looking to the inside, unable to fight back through Cheetah. I think Buncombe's gone wide again, potentially on dirty tyres. Manages to get the car gathered up underneath him and on the run into Ingwe slowed the thing down. But this battle was very close indeed, and they're scrapping for the final few points. 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th all together on your screen, and actually just hanging on to the coattails of Regan Mitchell is David Belanger, the number 223 EGT Motorsports car. So look, this battle is worthwhile because there's points up for grabs. Absolutely, yeah. And Kieran Vidago, I wonder if he had shades of Mazzano a couple of weeks ago. Of course, he will be happy to admit that he was the one who was, I wouldn't say at fault, but caused a collision
in the around the back end of the straight. There's about 5 or 6 of them coming together in the race a couple of weeks ago. So maybe just being a little bit reminiscent of that and just electing to maybe get out of the way, or maybe not cause too much of an issue. Doesn't want to have any more incidents happening like that. That is racing, of course, like you say, still in with a chance of some points. So if it means letting someone like Al Buncombe through, knowing potentially he knows how quick he is, of course he knows he would have been qualified a lot higher up the grid, and as a result of the drop down courtesy of that drive through we saw at the start of the race, maybe just electing to cut his losses and just focus on maybe not losing too much time and starting to make a bit of a gap for these 3 behind them. And it's Regan Mitchell and the Simsport Solutions number 69 car in an EGT Motorsport sandwich. He's got Thomas Lavoie in front and David Belanger behind, and just a little bit further back, a couple of positions back, he's got Pierre-Olivier Cloutier a few seconds back down the road as well. So still someone to keep an eye out for, but at the moment sitting pretty. He's going to be just outside the points it stands, so he's going to be hoping it's not going to be 2 races in a row where he doesn't sit out of the points. Tom Ryer is focusing on him now in the MSL Motorsport number 2 car. Slightly slower lap at the moment, but a fantastic drive from him so far. He's dropped off the back of John Clements slightly. However, fantastic drive from him. We've mentioned it a couple of times. 23rd on the grid and currently sitting in 7th, and with 15 minutes left to him, still plenty of time for him to get a couple more positions, because if you look at the timing tower, Jenson Button in 5th position, only a few seconds up the road, so still a chance for Tom to get even further at the grid. And as he mentioned to me before the race, chance for him to really put himself as the cat amongst the pigeons in that fast forward competition for the most places gained over the course of this season.
Oh, Tom, why didn't you qualify? It would have been so good to see him up the sharp end from the start, but props to him. He's up there anyway from the back of the grid, so stellar stuff. And like we say, it's only his 2nd race in this championship, but we know how quick he is in the Cayman. As we see Vidago hanging the tail out of his Cayman, drifting around Barbecue. That's going to put Lavoie on the grass on the inside. They're 3 wide on the run up into Sunset. Mitchell on the outside, Vidago in the middle. He tries to make the job work through the centre of the track, does so. Mitchell off wide to the left-hand side. There's still 3 wide into Clubhouse, and Mitchell's going to get the job done on a pair of them and benefit and go up to 14th place as they exit on the run towards the S's. Vidago holding on the outside as they go into the left-hander. Mitchell should be able to just drift across in front of the Simsport racing car and claim the position. Fantastic move from Mitchell to go from behind those 2, and I'm pretty sure he was in contention with David Belanger at one point. So look, he's climbed right up the order in the space of a few corners. Fantastic driving from the number 69 Simsport Solutions machine.
Oh, absolutely. And knowing from past that David Belanger is in fact a sim racing coach, I'm sure he'll be very happy with the performance from Regan Mitchell there. Fantastic move from the Simsport Solutions car, as you mentioned there, Tim. We focus our attention a little bit further up the field now to Jenson Button, closing once more on Ross McGregor, just under half a second between the 2 of them at the moment. But John Clements and Tom Ryer close for company. So if these guys do start to go hammer and tongs, as we've seen them do so far in this race, there's ever the chance for the 6th and 7th place drivers to come in on the action as well. Interestingly, Tim, I'm looking at the timing tower as well. Luca Burke just under 5 seconds back on Kev Critchley now, so that time has gone down slightly. I'm just looking at the laps on the last time round. Burke did take another 10th and a half out of that lead, so still enough time, you'd think, for Luca Burke to get up to the back of the BD Motorsports number 15 car. However, still another thing to get past them as well, as Jenson Button knows all too well. Around a fair few people so far.
Sorry, David. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Burke actually benefited from a mistake. I think Critchley lost about a second on 1 lap. So I wonder if he's run wide or made a mistake somewhere. And now Burke's closing up. But again, Critchley able to get the pedal back down, and he's matching Burke's lap time. So the gap not closing.
Absolutely, yeah. So still something to keep an eye out for. Like I say, if he makes mistakes, only a couple of those is going to put him right back into the clutches of the Rocket Simsport driver. But Jenson Button all over the back of Ross McGregor. Is he going to make a move into the Crocodiles? He's not. Shaped to the inside just to remind Ross that he's there. And he won't be reminding that he's got someone of the calibre of Jenson Button behind him as they follow into Cheetah single file through here. No chance of a move down here, but he's going to look for the best run possible. Out of Ingwes, Ross McGregor onto the grass, goes wide through Cheetah, and that was a much easier move than Jenson Button would have been looking forward to. But as a result, gets himself up into 4th position, and Ross McGregor under pressure now from John Clements, and closely followed by Tom Ryer as well. So not done yet. Ross under a bit of pressure as they go down through the kink down towards Crowthorne. John Clements got a fantastic toe down into turn 2 as they come in towards Crowthorne into the braking zone. Oh, Clements looks to the inside, but I think it's better of it on this occasion. But Ross McGregor, Tim, feeling the pressure a little bit. maybe that potential title is weighing heavy on the shoulders of the Zancho Simsport driver, because he's been susceptible to a few mistakes so far this race, hasn't he?
And we heard from him in the post-race comments at Spa that, yeah, look, he's excited about the championship, and yeah, he wants to push on and be at the top of the standings come the end of the season. Who wouldn't want to be? But he's aware that it's going to take a lot in terms of performance to do that. He's got to be clean, got to score points. And look, you know, this 5th place could score him crucial points come the end of the season. It could go very different way for his championship contenders in the coming 3 rounds. So look, every position is important, every point counts, but McGregor is certainly lapping strongly when he's in a bit of clean air. It's just when he's coming under pressure like this, a couple of mistakes, as we see, whoa, Clements getting very close to the back of our championship leader on the run up into the hairpin. That was nearly contact, and McGregor's race unravelling entirely. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a move from Clements and potentially a move from Raya once the door opens.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And funnily enough, whilst you've been talking about that, which is following on the moves at the moment, I've been getting the abacus out, trying to do some quick maths to see if we can confirm exactly what happened. As it stands, Luca Burke would actually not be leading the championship. He'd be level on points with Ross McGregor. Oh, as they John Clements and Ross McGregor both doing exactly the same thing. Synchronised crumpling of the sausage curb. Oh, Raya contact for Ingwe as well. He's gone for the move around the outside, very opportunistic. But Ross McGregor, I think at the moment at least, in fact, he looks like he's just going to lose out to Tom Raya. I was about to say to him, going through there, it looked like even though he went straight over the sausage curb and onto the gravel, he's going to hold on to 5th place, but it's still not over yet. John Clements going up the inside into Crowthorne, Ross McGregor to the outside, Tom Raya to the middle, and somehow they're still all going in the right direction. As they go up through the Jutsuke sweep, Ross McGregor looking to get to the inside as they go up towards Barbecue. Tom Raya very much appreciating the little gap he's forming now as a result of staying clear of these two battling. But just to go back to what I was saying before, well, I was going to say it doesn't make any difference now because it's not going to be true, but if Ross McGregor finishes in 5th and Luca Burke doesn't get the fastest lap, which he is currently sitting on at the moment, as I understand, that would leave them level on points going into the race at Paul Ricard next week. So still definitely all to play for. And the beauty of this championship, as we've seen already, is the points are so close at the top end of it. If you do fall a little bit further down, as Ross has now, still not necessarily going to do too much damage to title hopes as John Clements goes sliding through the S's there.
I'm amazed that none of these guys ended up in the barrier after that skirmish through the grass and kicking up the dust on the run through Cheetah. But what a move from Tom Raya to go round the outside at Ingwe, just commit to it late on the brakes, turn the car in, run that slightly wider line. Risky stuff for him though, because if there was a collision on the inside, they would have just swept across the track and taken the number 2 MSL Motorsport car with them for good measure. But a fantastic job from Raya to get past up to P5 from the back of the grid. A stellar drive from Raya in only his 2nd race in the championship. Tom, just do qualifying next time, man. Just do it. Stay up the front of the grid. Let's see you battle with these top guys, because your pace is fantastic. Brilliant result for him at the moment. And like you say, McGregor falling backwards slightly now. Let's see how this takes effect on the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have some strong words with Tom in the week before the next round at Paul Ricard and make sure that is the case, because like you say, we need to see guys fighting at the top of the order, especially when they've got the pace they have. He's 3.5 seconds back from Jenson Button at the moment. I think with 7 minutes left of this race, amazingly, this 53 minutes has disappeared without a trace. I would expect that is the 4th place maximum that Tom's going to be able to gain if he can get past Jenson Button. I'm sure he'll be relishing the chance to go up against the Rocket Simsport machine car, number 22 machine. But Kev Critchley, second to none at the moment. He's been absolutely untouchable throughout the first 53 or 52.5 minutes of this race, setting very, very consistent lap times. Luca Burke has closed in on him ever so slightly, but you'd like to think, Tim, that with the 7 and a bit minutes left to go, that 4.3 second gap, barring any miraculous mistakes or any miraculous pace that Luca Burke's able to snatch from beneath himself, it seems like Kev's going to be getting another victory in the season to complement the first one he got in round of 1 at Catalunya just 3 weeks ago.
He's been almost time trialling it, hasn't he, over the previous 50 or so minutes, lapping consistently, lapping cleanly, and he's still holding on to a pretty healthy lead over Burke, who hasn't been able to take chunks out of it. Yeah, okay, it's down towards 4 seconds now, where it was over 6 at one point. but that gap's always going to ebb and flow over the course of the race, and with a little bit of traffic as well, as we see Riot battling hard with Clements for 5th and 6th. Critchley, though, at the top of the standings, just got to keep doing what he's doing. Don't look in the mirror, look at the track in front, lap as if you've still got 50 minutes to go, and I'm sure he'll take the checkered flag in first as Riot runs very wide. Clements will be looking for a way through into Crowthorne.
Yeah, absolutely. The PSR car, the number 88 machine, John Clements, looking to make the move on Tom Rice, shakes to the inside. Doesn't look to make the move on this occasion. Tom will be very wise to that, as I'm sure he will be expecting that over the next few laps. And of course, we can't discount Ross McGregor. If these two do ever come together, we've seen a little bit of contact between these three already so far. So Ross McGregor is in pole position, as it were, to make the move and get himself back up into 5th position and retain what I can only assume by my basic maths will be the title lead going into the final 3 rounds. Of course, as mentioned, next week we head to Paul Ricard for a 90-minute feature race. We then head back to Imola for the second time in the Super Cup series in season number 1. Of course, it was the season opener. What feels like 7 months ago. It was only a few months back. You'd be amazed to believe. But yeah, we'll finish that and we'll head to Silverstone to finish off with another 90-minute race in 3 weeks' time. So still got 3 fantastic tracks to go to, and I'm sure, Tim, we're going to be spoilt with what is effectively 3 and 4 hours worth of fantastic racing still to come.
Very much excited for the remainder of the season, and with 5 minutes to go, I still have that gut feeling that it's potentially undecided at the top of the standings, because Burke's within touching distance. Should Critchley make a mistake, the race leading BD racing car will be able to see the white and day-glow yellow Cayman in his mirror. Meanwhile, further down the order, Crossman is doing a solid job of holding on to P3, Button unable to close up and take that podium position, and Riot is doing his best to keep John Clements at bay with a resurgent Ross McGregor, who's decided he wants to play ball and is fighting back. So look, plenty can still happen as we see Clements getting so wide on the exit of Ingwe there, nearly dropping the car into the wall on the exit of the left-hander at the final corner as they run down the hill towards Crowthorne for what must be probably the third to last time. It's still a very close battle for this position 5, 6 and 7.
Absolutely, yeah. Interesting to know if you're watching at the moment. Let us know your thoughts in the live stream chat. Who do you think is going to take this win? Is it going to be Critchley, Burke, or could it even be someone unbeknown to us? We'll see how we get on. And you can see the race-long battle between Vidago, Belanger and Thomas Lavoie is still ongoing. Kevin Vidago is still currently sitting in that final points-paying position. Regan Mitchell is still trying to check out in front, but he's not managed to do it just yet. But he is looking to get back on track and get another point-scoring position. It will be only the one missed so far in the past. What we got 10 races that we've done. 9 races. That we've done in the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup so far in seasons 1 and 2 combined. But Belanger all over the back of Kieran Vidago as they come through Barbecue up towards Sunset. He's going to try and make a move sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, though, it's all going to be to no avail because he has got that 15-second penalty. So if he does manage to do it, he'll be hoping, I'm sure, after he's got Thomas Lavoie in his ear going, get past Kieran Vidago and slow him down so I can get a couple of points in my troubles as well. I'm sure that'll be what he's trying to say to him in the sister EGT Motorsports car. But Vidago keeping it clean at the moment. We've seen him go sideways a couple of times through the S's, but keeps it clean through there, and he's starting to form a small bit of a gap, you would say. However, with 2 and a bit minutes left to go, those final points positions, as we see quite a few battered cars I'm hearing from Steve Proudley broadcast. You can see they're not looking particularly healthy or road safe at the moment. You wouldn't want to insure them with the amount of incidents they've been involved in so far this evening. However, still running fantastically well, and battles up and down the field, Tim, still to be decided over the final 2 minutes.
Yeah, Belanger was stuck in the wars early on, wasn't he? So his number 223 Cayman's looking particularly second hand. You wouldn't want to buy that chassis after this race. It looks particularly scuffed up down the left hand side. But look, those are the scars of some hard warfare and some hard racing out on track this evening, which is what we've come to know and love from the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup. These guys give it absolutely everything for whatever position is up for grabs. That battle pack that we were looking at, I mean, Mitchell, Vidago, Belanger and Lavoie, they're battling for 14th and beyond. You know, that's well outside the top 10. The final 2 points positions, it's just the nature of the racing in this championship, and I wouldn't want to miss I wouldn't have it any other way, David, to be honest, because it's fantastic for everyone watching in the YouTube chat, for you and myself commentating on this, and for Steve Proudley, who has the difficult job of skipping up and down the order, trying to find where the battles are, because they're everywhere, so makes his decisions hard.
Absolutely, yeah. It's easy enough for us to call a race as action-packed as this, but yeah, it's a completely different thing to try and keep abreast of all of it. And talking of battles, we're going to head back to the battle, as you mentioned there, fighting for the final points playing positions, and it just shows you the competitive nature of every single driver in this series so far. And continuing into the final 3 rounds, Kieran Vidago still just about holding David Belanger at bay as it stands, and Kev Critchley, you see now, starting his final tour of the Kyalami GP circuit. So he's going to be 33 laps completed for the BD Motorsports machine, and all 33 of them, barring any miraculous mistakes on this final tour, will have been led by this man. It's been a fantastic display so far. Of course, he's still got another minute and a half still to do, and he's got Stefan Bunetics, one of the back markers, for company as well. Incredibly, Tim, I'm just looking at this at the moment, and this tells you the competitive nature of the field so far. Only 2 people have actually been lapped at this moment in time. One of them Bradley Brockies, one of them Bastian Zenefels, and the latter of which actually pitted on the last lap, so I'm assuming he's retired the car, and that just tells you how quick and competitive these guys have been. Kev Critchley's been out on his own for the entirety of this race almost, yet has only lapped 1 car on track. That's incredible stuff.
Brilliant competitive nature up and down the field. So we're seeing Vidago in picture scrapping so hard with Belanger for the final point up for grabs this evening. They went side by side through the final sector and exchanging a little bit of paint, I'm sure. Fortunately, both cars are red, white and black, so it won't look too bad when they get the cars back into pit lane. But look, Critchley has been the man on a mission tonight. I said he needed to prove himself on his return to the series, and I don't think he could have done a better job than that. Pole position, race victory. What an evening for Kev Critchley and BD Racing, who are going to be 1-3 on the podium.
Absolutely. You see Kev Critchley, your man to watch this evening. Like I say, missed out the race at Spa last week, but rounds the final corner at Ingwe for the 33rd and final time to win round number 4 here of the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy. Luca Burke manages to get back into 2nd place from 5th on the grid. Fantastic display from him. Chris Crossman, BD Racing sister machine, a number 3 car, dropped down a position from 2nd on the grid, but finishes a very impressive 3rd place. Jensen Button shapes to the inside to finish a very impressive 4th as well on his return. And Tom Ryer, driver of the day for me for sure, in the most unbiased way possible, 23rd on the grid up to 5th. John Clements, as we see, we should come to him in a second, but Oscar Sandberg nearly getting pit by Florian Bauer. John Clements finishes 6th, Ross McGregor 7th, Oscar Sandberg coming through in 8th, Florian Bauer in 9th, and again another driver who's done a fantastic job this evening, kept himself well out of trouble. Aaron Martin Pilkington in 10th, Ben Hitz in 11th, Al Buncombe in 12th, courtesy after his drive-through penalty at the start of the race. Jack Noller finishes on the road in 30th, but will drop back with that time penalty. Regan Mitchell comes back into point scoring form, finishing 14th. Kieran Vidago rounding out the points playing positions in 15th. Belanger, Lavoie, Cloutier, Passpont, Upton, McIntyre, Bunetics and Bradley Brockies round out those of the running cars. We did lose, as you can see, Bastian Zenefels fell into the pit lane on the last couple of laps, and it looks like we've lost one other driver at the end as well. I can't quite catch who that was, but Tim, what an absolute belt of a race. We've been spoilt for choice across the field, but Kev Critchley was just a class above tonight, wasn't he?
It was brilliant, wasn't it, from Critchley? It was fantastic to see him. Look, this is what we wanted towards the end of last season. Someone to give Luca Burke a headache, and he's going to be wanting to take some painkillers after tonight's race because he was incapable of matching that BD Racing car. All props go to Kev Critchley for a great performance tonight. Shout out as well to Chris Crossman getting on the podium as well. 3rd place in the number 3. A really cracking drive from him to not act as a support role at all for his teammate, but to be giving them the best shot, clawing back some points by taking some crucial scores away from championship contenders. Tom Ryer up into the top 5 as well. What a drive from down the order. John Clements, another driver who we saw finally towards the sharp end of things at Spa, back in amongst it tonight at Kyalami. McGregor, really, he's the interesting story for me in 6th because, like I say, at the end of the season, in 7th place, at the end of the season, we could be looking back at drop points. We could be looking back at moments where maybe, high scoring races went amiss. Yes, it's still a good tally against his name, the points taken away from 7th place, but could one of those positions be costly come the checkered flag at Silverstone?
Absolutely. And Tim, I'm going to let you disappear and skulk off to the interview because I can see we've got a handful of the guys wanting to let you ask them those hard-hitting questions we know you love to do as you see the highlights from the race appear on screen. But what a performance from the top three. And like I say, we'll hear from them in just a second. Now, Tim, I understand you're there. I'm hoping you've made the quick rundown to the comms box, and I'll hand over to you so you can have a chat with those podium position winners and anyone else who's elected to jump down for the fun as well.
So I'm down here in the interview booth with the drivers from tonight's Esport Designs Cayman Supercup at Kyalami, and I'm delighted to be joined by Kev Critchley, BD Racing driver, on his return to the championship, back to the top of the pile and a race victory. Kev, that was a perfect event for you this evening, pole position and race victory. How was your run at Kyalami tonight?
Brilliant. I'd like to say it couldn't go any better, but once Luca got some clean air, I didn't take my eye off that delta for 45 minutes. So yeah, fantastic to get the pole and the win, but still a very, very hard race.
We say it was a hard race, but it looked like qualifying was a lot of fun. Very close between the top 5 drivers. It seemed like it changed hands almost with every passing hot lap. How was that then, trying to dig deep and get the fastest time over the one lap? What's your strategy going into qualifying? Is it a real focus for you, or is your eye set on the 60-minute or 90-minute race?
I focus a lot on qualifying, but there seemed to be a lot less grip than what I'd been practicing with. So the car was a bit more sliding. I think it reflected it in the times. I was expecting people to be quicker. But still over the moon to get pole as well. Yeah, fantastic.
Like we say, you were victorious at Barcelona in your debut in the series, then an up and down race at Misano, unable to race last time at Spa, back with a bang this evening. Are your eyes set on the championship? Because performances like that, you'll certainly be clawing back those points and up towards the sharp end of things come the season end at Silverstone.
It's great to be in this position, but to be honest, I came to have fun in this championship, and I'm trying not to let myself think about the championship. I'm trying not to be bothered and let it get to me. I just want to have fun, The more I care, the more time I spend away from my family practicing. So I'm trying just to have fun and enjoy it, But yeah, kind of got one eye on it. I'm not going to lie, but yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure the other drivers will be hoping you have less fun than tonight, Critchley, going forward. So congratulations on your result this evening, and I look forward to seeing you next time out at Paul Ricard.
Cheers, Tim.
We'll go over to our second place finisher, and it's not too often that we say that about Rocket Simsport's Luca Burke. Luca, it was a very close qualifying, P2 in the race. Looked like you had some fun battles in the opening few moments, and they're able to start clawing back time on Kev, but really checkered flag came too soon for you this evening.
I'd imagine it was fun to watch, but it wasn't too fun behind the wheel, if I'm completely honest. I've made a mistake in qualifying. I took it a bit too easy into the final sector, which most likely cost me pole, or at least a couple positions. And yeah, that led me to starting a bit further behind than I wanted to. P5 is still alright, but got stuck behind Ross, and understandably he was defending. He is leading the championship, and that allowed Kev to just run off with it really. But yeah, good fun. I gave it all. Could have done a bit better on my end, but at the end of the day, can't really complain. P2 is still a good result.
It was certainly a change, wasn't it, to some of the races you had last season where you're out front and running away with it. And indeed, you had that at Misano a couple of races ago. We go to Paul Ricard next, a very different circuit to Kyalami. And of course, with a 90-minute race, our third feature race of the season, Has your approach to these pit stop races changed? Are you going in with different strategy, having learnt the effects of the pit stops and taking tyres at Spa, where it came so close to another race victory?
Yeah, I've definitely learned a thing or two when it comes to strategy about GT4s. So hopefully, we all managed to, like within the team, we all managed to get it right this time. And yeah, poly card, not usually the favorite, but we'll give it our all.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Luca, for joining us in the interview booth, and I look forward to seeing you next time out at Paul Ricard.
Thank you.
We'll go over to our third place finisher, made an appearance on the podium, and the second half of a BD Racing 1-3. Chris Crossman, a fantastic race from you this evening. Really competitive pace in qualifying and able to get the better of the competition in wheel-to-wheel action over the 60-minute sprint.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great race, to be honest. I had a lot of fun. There was a few battles. I didn't get the best start, but to be honest, I don't really know what to do with the GT4 start. I always seem to get a little bit slow off the line, but yeah, I had some great battles, and obviously at first everyone's tyres are kind of warming up, so lines and everything were a little bit iffy at first, but then when I started to get myself in a bit of rhythm, it was all right. And there was some battling going on, like Luca said there, with Ross and Luca, so they were like obviously just in front, and I was just kind of like waiting. I wasn't wanting to ruin my tyres, because to be honest, I think that's something I normally do, is I'm too aggressive on the tyres, so I just stayed back and yeah, got a bit patient. And then when I was in third and there was a bit of a gap, to be honest, at the end I was taking it very easy, because the second last corner I could hardly see the turn in, to be honest, and I very nearly spun it a couple of times, so I was just taking it easy for the last few laps and just making sure I held on. But I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, with my quali time, because I was actually 0.2 up at one point and messed it up with the second last corner on my last little outing, so I could have had a little bit faster, but I can't complain. Kevin, Luca are absolute phenomenal, so I'm extremely happy to get a podium, like you said, my first podium, and I probably won't get many more this series.
I was going to say, Chris, do you feel like this is a more accurate representation of your pace in the Caymans and amongst the names at the sharp end of this championship, or do you think you had something in the bag at Kyle Army?
If I'm honest, I think Kyle Army's just a track I'm a little bit better at than a few of the other tracks. So I don't think I'm quite on the same level as Kev and Luke are and some of the Zancho and Rocket guys. But I can give them a battle if it's a good track for me. So I think third does flatter me overall. But for Kyle Army, I am quite good at the track, so I'll take it, to be honest, mate.
And also, I didn't want to say during commentary that you were playing a supporting role to Kev in terms of, how you were driving, but you're taking points off the competition in terms of the championship. You're both in, a very strong position in terms of points. If you guys are in towards the sharp end of the standings towards the final few races, will you see you guys play ball with each other to help each other along, or is it, as Kev said, here to have fun, here to enjoy the racing?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. Like, I obviously want to have a bit of fun, and I'd like to try and do well if I can. But like I said, Kevin is that extra little level. So if he's behind me and I'm holding him up, I'm just going to be taking points away from him. So to be honest, I would probably step aside and do a bit of a Bottas and just let him pass, to be honest.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I look forward to seeing your teamwork play out over the rest of the season. Congratulations, Chris. Made an appearance on the podium, and hopefully plenty more to come in the final 3 races.
Well, boys.
We'll go over to Florian Bauer, who finished in 9th position this evening. Florian, again, another difficult race for you in this championship. You must feel that your eSport Designs Cayman gets a bit of a beating in these races on a Monday night.
Yeah, I was again a bit unlucky. Had a good start, in my opinion. Got a little bit less grip out of T3, I guess it was. And yeah, then some guys overtook me again, and I had to fight back. Didn't really find the rhythm at all. It was quite hard to follow everybody there in the front. Great job of everybody there in front. In the last 15 to 10 minutes, I just found the rhythm a little bit, and came closer to Oscar. And unfortunately, the last lap didn't work out that much as I hoped. In the end, it's P9. Maybe we can go for a better position in the next race. We'll really try to.
So like you say, P9 tonight, a better performance in this sprint race, obviously not falling to the pit stop error that you made at Misano. What are your thoughts going into the second half of the season now? What is your plan and how do you approach the races? Is it going hell for leather to get as far up the order as possible, or are you taking your time and still learning and getting to grips with the car and the racing here in this championship, because it is so very close between the competition out there?
I think I'm gonna still push the hell out of it, give everything in every session we can drive, and yeah, in the end, maybe if one more race doesn't work out that well, I will maybe pit again for fresh tires to go for fastest lap. But yeah, in the end, pushing for good positions will be the plan, I guess.
And looking forward to Paul Ricard next time. The track you go well at, are you hoping to be quick round there?
Yeah, I've drove it in the Cayman already, so we are well prepared for it. Maybe we can go for good positions there.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the interview booth, Florian, and congratulations on your P9 this evening.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
And we'll go over to Tom Ryer, who probably had the race of a lifetime, starting from 23rd on the grid, the number 2 MSL Motorsports car, all the way up to 5th place at the flag. Tom, what a race this evening from the back to the front. You must have passed plenty of Caymans on your race tonight.
It was quite fun, to say the least.
Yeah, and it looked like, an interesting strategy from you, choosing not to take qualifying and drop into the YouTube chat. We had David telling you to get back out on track and set a time, and then myself at some points in that race wishing you had qualified. But how was your race this evening then, fighting through? You say you had fun. Competition's close though. It's not easy to get past these other drivers, is it?
I mean, especially Kyalami isn't a track that you usually overtake them much on, and considering how strong the field it was quite a struggle, but thinking back, okay, yes, I had fun, but honestly, thinking back, I should have just qualified, because considering that I was like 3 seconds behind Jensen Button, who was P4, I believe, in the end. I mean, there could have been quite a better race for me, but in the end, finishing P5, coming from P23 is quite amazing.
Certainly helpful in terms of the Fast Forward Championship. Looking forward to Paul Ricard next time out. Is that a track you go well at? Are you looking forward to another strong result? And will we see you taking qualifying in that race?
It's an okay track for me. Like, I'm struggling to get consistent on it, because especially the end of the second sector is quite technical, and if you misjudge a braking point just slightly by 2 meters or something, the car just goes straight or just starts to spin. But yeah, honestly, I don't think I'm going to qualify, because I could take the fight to the guys in front, but there's no way for me to take anything in the championship, and I rather try to get the prizes from the other things you can get.
Well, props to you for some very fair driving and some fair racing indeed. So congratulations on your result again, Tom. Great to see you fighting through the order in what was a good-looking Cayman, and look forward to seeing you next time out, Paul Ricard.
Thank you. Cheers, buddy.
We'll go over to our, not quite sure where he finished, can't see on my timing screen, Oscar Sandberg, P8 at the flag. Sorry, Oscar, in the Turn 1 Esports car. A good race for you here last season, Oscar. You managed to find your way through the order and up onto the podium. So it's a track you go well at, but tonight a little bit further down the order.
Yeah, I will say that I think the performance this time was maybe not better than last time, but the competition is much harder this year. So to be honest, I think a podium place here last year will be around P5, P6, maybe down to P8 this year. So I think theoretically it went fine. I have to say we had a little door-to-door racing, what is fun. I somehow took the longest straw, if you come that way, between me and Ben. I'm very sorry that he ended to lose some position. It was fun as long as it was, but yeah, I mean, we have been trying to work a little together, but racecraft, we obviously didn't work together. So I think if we had been smarter, we could have catch up with the guys in front. But obviously, yeah, some door-to-door racing is always fun. Had the last lap fight. I had the last lap fight too, and I could save the P8 instead of getting P9, and I'm happy with that, to be honest.
It's interesting to hear from you about the level of competition changing. Obviously, you raced in season 1, back again in season 2, and whilst your real-world racing commitments start to fire up again in the run-in towards the NLS and the Nürburgring 24 hours, how have you felt the level of competition change between season 1 and season 2? Do you reckon it's taken a big step forward? Like you say, P3 last time means a P8 tonight.
Yeah, it's a good question actually, because I mean just see on the teams we have a lot of teams who it's maybe new, who didn't compete last year, but we also have the drivers who was competing for podiums last year, for example, or the last season, because it was last year of course. But then you see that, well, but when you have, for example, like Team Rocket, for example, who is 3 drivers, Santos with 3 drivers, but they are working together, of course. That means you have 6 drivers who are working on setups and things like that. And then you have people like me, who it's theoretically 1 person, and I should fight against a team like that. That is what I mean, that theoretically you need to be a part of a bigger team to have a small chance to be on the top against the others, or you have to be an alien, of course. But I am not an alien. My performance is more, you can say, my performance is pure luck sometimes, and I will say my start was very good from P12 to P7 in 5 corners. I have to say that one was quite good, but you can say, I will say that the competition here is very, very much more prepared than it was last year. And I think the lap times, racecraft and these things have evolved a lot since last year, and I'm very happy to see that. I mean, I'm very happy for Steve to see that a series like this, yeah, it is some incidents, but I mean, look on the close racing, look on all the talents, look on all the people who is driving here so close into each other. Of course it will be some incidents, but I don't think anyone do anything intentionally, and that is the most important. Some door-to-door racing happens anyway in a GT4 class, where we have a one-make series, who it's not the fastest cars, and you can say when we get the level of talent we have here, it will be very tight, as you see in the qualifying, and in the race it will be some door-to-door racing, but that is what people love to see. Yeah. So to be honest, I'm very happy to be a part of this, and this time I have to say big thank you to my spotter, Chris Corbin, for helping me a lot. He kicked my ass and said, "Come on, Oscar, sector 2 is bad. Come on, fix that one." And I think that actually saved my P8. So yeah,
brilliant stuff.
Thank you him, and of course to the rest of Turn 1 who's sitting at home and looking.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on your result this evening, Oscar. I look forward to seeing you fighting out on track next time at Paul Ricard.
I am not looking forward to that, but okay.
Thank you very much, Oscar. And we'll go back up to David. David, some interesting comments from those who won, those who are a little bit further down the order. Close racing was on the menu tonight at Kyalami, and boy, do we know it.
Oh, absolutely, Tim. And yeah, it's so good to see it here from so many drivers and so many positive messages coming out of them as well. It sounds like everyone really enjoyed that race. I know there was a couple of instances a little bit further down the field. Obviously, you've got the concertina effect, but those can be quite difficult to avoid. So it's nice to see that everyone's had a fantastic race. And yeah, I'm sure you'll agree with me, Tim, that we were spoilt with some fantastic action this evening, and hopefully we'll get some more brilliant action at Paul Ricard in a week's time.
I think the key takeaway is Tom Riot, he wants to qualify at the next race at Paul Ricard. So I've got my victory this evening, is that he's going to be setting a lap time in that 20-minute session, and we'll see him up the order. So fingers crossed for a nice fight, and also seeing Chris Crossman on the podium as well. That's great to see him up there at the sharp end where he deserves to be. And a BD Racing 1-3 as well. That's really good for that team on the way, into the second half of the season. They can take the fight to the bigger teams, like we heard from Oscar. The bigger teams of Zanshine and Team Rocket Simsport, they are up there causing headaches, causing problems. But tonight, they're winning races and getting podiums. Fantastic race for the series, I think, tonight at Kyalami. Hopefully more of the same next time out, Paul Ricard.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of which, as you can see on the screen now, Paul Ricard will be next week on the 24th of May. We'll have a 90-minute feature race for you next week. But for tonight, that is the end of proceedings. On behalf of myself, broadcast director Steve Proudley, and my co-commentator this evening, Tim Fullbrook, we'd like to thank you all hugely for watching. It's been a fantastic evening of racing, and like I say, we've been blessed with some fantastic racing over the last 4 rounds. And amazingly, we've still got 3 rounds to go, and I would like to think, and I would expect, that based on the first 4, the last 3 are going to be pretty darn good as well. But from myself, Tim and Steve, we'd like to thank you guys very much for watching. This has been the Esport Designs Cayman Supercup in association with MSL Motorsport Consultancy. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you guys same time, same place next Monday for Paul Ricard. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.